So apparently, I was in the Mario space and nobody was able to see my PFP at all. I asked 3 or 4 different people; they couldn't see me in there, but I could see them. Uh, is really interesting, isn't it? Um, yeah. So I'm testing it out, seeing if this space will work. Obviously, you guys see it; other people see it. So I really don't know what's going on. I'm started using my VPN again. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Caroline, apparently no one. I'll wait for you to come up. You may not be able to hear, but I had to test this out. I had to test this out by opening a space. I wasn't able to be seen in the Mario space. About 3 or 4 mutuals I asked that I can't see your PFP anywhere.
Hey Zach.
So, uh huh.
In a space like Mario's, I think it only shows like the first 1,000 people. So sometimes if you join late, people can't see you.
Really? Even if they're a mutual,
I think so because
it's just too piled in.
I've noticed that, yeah, it's almost like once it reaches a certain capacity, I don't think it is actually
Got it.
sorting everything properly. However, um, there was a period of time where even in smaller spaces, Z could not see me in spaces and I could see him. But what I ended up doing was unfollowing him and refollowing him, and that fixed it. I don't know what gave me like the idea to do that, but I did and it fixed it like immediately. So I wouldn't worry unless it's in spaces that are under 1,000 people, but Mario's I wouldn't really worry about.
Well, that's good news. That's good news. Yeah, I don't want any problems. What time is the date night space starting?
I'm planning on 9 Central. I will probably
10 Eastern.
yes, 10 Eastern. So,
Okay, so 4 hours. Okay.
hopefully I will be on time. I am helping a girlfriend through a breakup, so we are supposed to go to her boyfriend's house to get all of her stuff back. So, I may
Oh, joy.
yeah,
Oh, joy.
I may have some stories of, misadventures to share later, but we'll see. Just here for moral support.
Hopefully, it doesn't get too awkward.
Oh, I'm way okay with awkward. I am unafraid of awkwardness. It is other people who will feel awkward around me. So,
So,
Yeah,
Zach,
yeah. Go ahead,
Zach,
Boxing. What?
rate this joke 1 to 10. I saw you. It's a good one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's funny. I don't know. Maybe like a six.
Nah,
Um,
I think it's a little more than a 6, but it's all right.
well, I mean,
It's a little obvious.
they are retarded people, so I have a friend who he doesn't get offended by any other words, but retarded really gets him offended. Um,
The R. It depends how you say it. You kind of say it like with the hard R. It's like the retarded. So like I could see why people could get offended. I mean, listen. I think it is like it's a it's a tough one. I don't know to even like joke about like people who are retarded, but it was like a medical term. I swear to you, like when it went from mentally retarded. Well, before it was like mongoloids for people with Down syndrome. So yeah, but it's the word in itself is not it's a retardant, right? So like to retard a process. So it's actually a real word, but I don't know.
Well,
yeah, in Italian, you refer to a retard as a mongoloid, mongolo.
yeah, that used to be very common in English, actually. I guess in the hard R or A sound, I guess if you call someone a retard, that might be different than referring to someone as retarded.
Probably. Like a Kaiser likes to say,
The
"That's retarded."
Das is retarded.
Well, the problem is also in medical diagnosis, in general. I think kind of the term like developmentally delayed or autistic has kind of like warped into what we used to consider, I guess, mentally retarded or any of things, something like that. So it's a very like the terms are just switched, and honestly, like I know it's like a controversial thing to say, but like autism kind of encompasses some of that. It's kind of weird how we diagnose people with developmentally delayed disorders, I guess you could say.
Yeah, nobody wishes that on their worst enemy to have any issues like that. I remember growing up, there was a neighbor of ours in Italy when we went there, and they came in the summer, and they had like a grown daughter, and she was definitely retarded, and would rock back and forth in a chair outside, just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And I remember, like, my cousin and I, we were young. Me and our friends, we would laugh, and then somebody was just like, "You shouldn't laugh because like that could easily have been one of you." And there was a time that you'd have just been put to death, and that would have been the end of it. You'd have been like smothered, and it's like, "Oh shit!" And they're like, "It takes like a really great parent and like an incredible person to like take care of someone like that and like deal with that." So yeah, I tend to agree. Like, if you think about it in practical terms, it's probably a very vicious thing to call somebody, but it is what it is. Children can be cruel, and it is like a kid's term. Like, but I don't know. Do you think kids are still using words like that? And I mean, or are we like the last generation, people now in their like 30s or
Well, people just, it's like they'll trade out language and then it will just go to something else, and so some new word will be like roughly the equivalent of the N word or something. It's just this like semantic shifts and
Yeah, I
and
mean,
then
I made the
also
joke about Karen. I mean, the way people were saying Karen, it was like white cunt. Like, there's no other way to interpret it. The viciousness it was used.
wow,
No, I'm telling that's how it was used.
you're
Right?
using descriptive language, yeah. I actually have this. One thing that I've noticed about semantic shift in language, which is fairly interesting, is that in the 90s, gay was a reference to someone who's homosexual, but it also might be a reference to someone who is effeminate, like almost the equivalent of like a prissy or girly man or whatever. But then it also meant something that was lame, and it had like no sexual connotation. So something to be gay was roughly equivalent to sucking or just being bad or boring
Stupid.
or self-righteous, maybe even. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. Like, I think the trajectory of homosexuals in America has actually gone down that path. Like, there was almost something prophetic about gay, because at one point homosexuality was almost seen as like the equivalent of that satanic statue, and it was kind of scary and dangerous and threatening and diseased and avant-garde, if all of those kinds of things. But I think now being gay is almost figuratively gay. Like, someone who's gay is like Gary in the cubicle beside you or someone like that. Like, it's almost like a term. Like, being gay has ironically become gay, if you like. I think that's a kind of fascinating trajectory. Maybe it was almost prophetic. Like, in the 90s, we kind of realized that being gay, there's, there are figures like Oscar Wilde and things like this, these almost like sacrificial lambs and tragic figures, and they're tempted to engage in the love that dare not speak his name and all that kind of stuff. But that was actually not the primary dynamic. The primary dynamic of homosexuality is that it's actually not terribly interesting. It's gay. Isn't that kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of like reading too much into
it. No, it's poetic.
Oh, that's a good description, actually. Yeah, it's kind of boring, right?
Yeah, honestly, Richard, yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I'm also a 90s kid, and one of the meanings of, we said schwul, and basically what you say, oh, that's so gay, or that's so schwul, and it basically meant often lame, that's totally lame, you know, like this is schwul.
Oh, so
Like,
schwul, the same thing in German occurred.
yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And it mostly meant lame. It's like, oh, this is like lame, you know, basically. It sucks. Yeah.
In Italian, there's a term called finocchio, which is a type of vegetable, and that's what they would colloquially call gays.
Italian.
Fennel.
You see,
Fennel.
you see, Richard. No matter how often you will be betrayed by the Italians, you can never be mad at them. They're so charming.
They're so funny,
Finocchio.
so outrageous.
It's awesome, man. Segunel, mi amore, bella.
Don't you think one of the terms that's kind of like gotten like it's underrated in how aggressive and damning it is to somebody is a creep? I mean, like creepy, because like you're insinuating that a guy has a proclivity to like commit sexual assault. So that's like a very, it's a word that's used a lot, but it's a pretty hefty charge to call somebody creep, right?
I don't think so.
I'm just trying to save Monolith's honor again, I guess.
That's going to be.
I think creep is that. I think that's pretty strong language. Yeah,
it's strong, but it's not like you think it's defamatory in the same way. Like,
I have the feeling that it's overused, Richard and Segunel. Like everyone is a creep. Everything is creepy. Then it's becoming meaningless to a certain degree, isn't it? It's like so overused. I don't know. It's like. But that's the problem in general with words, if you overuse them, and I guess schwul or gay was used too often, then it just became lame, it's just lame.
But I don't think Richard, I was going to say, Richard, I don't think you've had experience of online dating. Probably not, because your face is so public, but if you go on an online date and they meet you, they're like, oh, I'm like
paid attention to the latest gossip, Bucks.
No, I'm glad you're not a serial killer or whatever. And I always think, I'm like, you have like a really big ego to think that a serial killer would target you. Like, I always think that when they say stuff like that. I'm like, everybody's their own main character in their book, right?
But now, thank you, boxing. I came to some thought. Richard, you are, in a certain way, you are relatively notorious. I mean, you're married, so it's out of the option, yeah? But if you would, let's say, sign up to these dating sites, apps, I guess you would have there would be quite a lot of women who would, Richard Spencer, notorious, I think you would have a big fan club, honestly. A female fan club.
I can't hear Richard, but Kaiser, stop speaking for
I couldn't hear Richard either.
I was going to say, Kaiser's projecting these women through it. I'm kidding, Kaiser.
Richard, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can't hear anything.
All right, let's see. We brought him back. I don't like having to use the VPN for the space.
Okay,
but,
here we go.
Okay, can you hear us? Yeah, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what. God, I seriously, can they not fix? I feel like.
Fuck.
This is bad.
Zach, do you have WLAN or do you have...
Actually, Kaiser, my VPN is linked in Frankfurt, Germany. I did that just for you.
Oh my goodness.
But this is, I did this because the spaces are being attacked. It's not a coincidence that Richard has trouble speaking.
It's not going to make a difference, Zach, on if you switch to a different endpoint for your VPN, because it's still, basically, as soon as you swap over, they can still get the network information. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Because ultimately that VPN is helping you between your point, and to the actual data center for Twitter X. But once inside there, for the space service that's actually offered, those endpoints are going to be consistently served by a pool.
What about the technology to, like, when you get a phone call for you not to be kicked off a space? Like, is that something that they could change? Because I'm sure everybody here has, dealt with that before,
Yeah,
obviously.
the best thing they could do, in my limited opinion, would be to get a feature request going, and you can do those in spaces to basically say, hey, y'all need the ability to detect when a space is under a DDoS, and when that's happening, start routing the traffic from one server to another and spread it out between multiple. And then if you're continuing to have a specific space targeted, look at the source for that and start black holing that traffic or set up a honeypot to capture who those people are.
We need TAP just to run the tech for this space, just so that.
Wow.
Richard,
This,
can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
now it's good.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was like magic, tech magic. I understood almost nothing. Just wanted to point it out.
I just went to LTE as opposed to the Wi-Fi. Yeah. No, there was the Bumble scandal of 2022 or something like that. So to be honest, I wasn't even that serious about Bumble, but I just got on, and I listed myself as a moderate, politically speaking. But after all, I do have all of these liberal opinions, and I voted for Joe Biden. So I mean, isn't it justified, right? But anyway, I got into a few. Nothing. I didn't take it very seriously, and I don't think I went on a date via this app. But I remember there was one girl who was rather attractive, and she knew who I was just by the face, and we had this like endless conversation going, where she would sometime interrogation, sometime flirtation, sometime getting my takes on the political scene. Like I was basically doing this for free, I guess. But anyway, then I actually traveled to Texas, and this is what I think happened. It like opened it up to I didn't even know this, but it just like went to a new zip code with 10,000 times the people on the app. And so someone like reported me to, I think, Jezebel, the website that went out of business. And they just freaked out. And, I think the thing that they freaked out about was the moderate, like I'm lying on a dating app or something, like, wow, that's breaking news. There's this horrible new trend of lying on dating apps. But anyway, I just owned up to it. I didn't want to I noticed this happened a few times to other people, and I was just like, yeah, it's me. It's not even that serious. And like, what are you doing? Like, just give me a break. You're reporting on this, anyway.
So that was
but then
2022 or 2020?
2022, I think. It's fairly recent. But anyway, it was just something that happened. But I would say this. I do think that it was silly from one perspective, but on another perspective, I think these like gossipy women were in a way trying to prevent me from reproducing or something. Like I think there was some like deeper motive for it. Like it was like, he has been ostracized, he shall not get pussy. Like it was very, I don't know, they took it far more seriously than I did. And it was definitely like motivated and intentional or something. Because again, it raises questions. Like, let's say you engaged in armed robbery and spent 5 years in the slammer or something. So you're kind of like a bad guy, from society's standpoint. Like, are you not allowed to have a Twitter account? Are you not allowed to have a Bumble account? I mean, where does it end? Like, you're allowed to vote after a certain period of time. I forgot what it is, maybe 7 years or something. But I mean, I don't know. It's just very, very weird. But I don't think they would use that against someone with a criminal record.
Do you know how many fluff pieces were written about the black guy with the green eyes who was like a supermodel now, and everybody was like fawning over him? Do you remember that, Richard?
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it was the same articles that would write things about you would write about this guy's so handsome, he got a model contract, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
What, did he have a criminal record?
Yeah,
Or,
it was a mugshot. It was from a mugshot.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it
god!
was like,
Oh god! Yes, I remember. I do. This rings a bell now. Actually, yeah, exactly. That was the mugshot. But it is kind of funny when you have these like goth chick mugshots and like a million people, million men are like, I can save her.
oh, it's called what is it?
It's a weird
Mugshot
thing.
Shorties. Mugshot Shorties. That's the website, Zach, right? Zach, that's where Zach goes to find.
I have no idea. No.
Yeah, I mean, look at Stalin has a very interesting mugshot. He almost looks like a New York hipster, you know, very handsome,
yeah.
absolutely handsome, you know, like Wanson, unbelievable. Yeah, I don't
Are
know
you
what
talking about
happened
the
there.
young Stalin? The young
Yeah,
Stalin?
the hipster Stalin, you know, like really, honestly, he looks like the long hair and the what's it called, the shawl, you know, fuck me.
Balaclava?
Yeah, you know, it looks really hipsterish, Williamsburg, you know, like Williamsburg style.
Yeah.
Well, you can look. You can also look at the people that watch those videos. There's that video where they did a bunch of interviews with like people on the streets in Moscow, and they're like, "Would you drop a bomb on the U.S.?" And this girl said, "Yeah." She just said, "Yeah," and they said, "Well, why?" And she said, "Just 'cause." And dude, the comments were filled with guys saying, I can save her, I could do it." Like people are just like attracted to that kind of insanity, I feel.
Do you know what it is? I think I went on my alpha rant the other day where all these conservatives are like, be an alpha male, like get a mortgage and, hold down a steady job. That's what alphas. I'm like, you're describing a beta. Like that is, I'm not criticizing anyone here, but like that is total beta behavior. The alpha male distinguishes himself from the pack. And he is either Napoleon or he's a criminal or he's a serial killer or he's a crazy artist who shocks the world. I mean, that is alpha behavior. There's only one alpha. And so I do think that there's like a deep ingrained desire among women, and I don't say this as a criticism, it's a compliment, in fact, to mate with the alpha. And they just can't help themselves. But again, an alpha male is a danger. Like that's the kind of interesting thing about the alpha.
So you think their thing to you was they didn't want to admit that some of these women may have been sexually attracted to you. That was the whole.
Oh yeah, it's like we need to crush him. Yeah.
Well, there was a
Definitely.
series of articles written by similar publications, like during probably a little bit before COVID. This was with Trump, and it's like I can't believe I was deceived by this guy who said like I was liberal and then he voted for Trump on dating apps. Like there was like this whole like obsession with those type of like situations. Like on Jezebel, they used to write all these fluff pieces, and that fell apart because I think there's.
Well, you can also look at it this way. All of these, I think what it is, Richard, is that there's two sides, just to men and women, but I'm speaking more on the women's side. There's women's natural proclivities towards wanting to be with a strong man, which is what we see with liberal women and all these other things. But at the same time, we have this propagandized feminism that has been pushed since the late 1800s, in which they are trying to the woman's psyche is at constant warfare with itself in the modern age. They're constantly at war with themselves because what they're taught is different than what they feel. And therefore they get psychotic, and I think that explains a lot of the stuff now.
I think that might, but I kind of have a differing view on this. I think that feminism is a very, very old phenomenon, and you also have to understand that, like, you see a lot of this on Twitter where they're like they'll look at like a Tinder breakdown. It'll be like, look, 5% of these guys, they're super handsome or buff, or they have, they look like they make a lot of money. They're getting 80% of the women, all this kind of stuff. Remember that the whole idea of like 1-to-1, 50-50 population matchup, that's not really how it worked. And women being choosy and elite men out reproducing the hoi polloi, like that is the way of the world. Now, I think in a way it's changing because you have, if you look at like fertility rates, their fertility rates are very strong on the bottom of society, and they're very strong on like the upper 1%. Like I make more than $1 million a year. I've got 9 children, or you see that as well, and then you see the middle kind of hollowing out. So I think things have changed, but like women being choosy and kind of like attacking betas or sub betas, men, and kind of kicking them out of the gene pool in a way, I think this is actually a very old phenomenon. And like Twitter right wingers who are focusing on like they have this like ideal of the 1950s, which I think was true to some extent, of like all of this peer pressure towards monogamy, everyone gets a wife, every wife gets a husband kind of thing. I think that's actually rather unnatural when it comes to human history. It's always been brutal, in fact.
Oh, absolutely true. Richard is spot on. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about it the other day, when Luca was in the space. I got a little bit angry when I was talking about inheritance laws. And let's say, if you're let's say over here, again, the oldest brother inherited everything. For the younger brothers, that was hard.
Can we bring Luca, Kaiser?
No. They had to become journeymen, and but to be able to marry, I'm not talking about, let's say, an affair, with a maid, not a maiden, with someone working in a pub.
Country matters.
Yeah, I mean, you had to
Hamlet says country matters.
You see, it was very difficult. I mean, you have to have a respectable job. You have to have something to show for, and that was not so easy. Yeah, and honestly, Nikolai, what you're describing, I wouldn't blame liberalism or feminism for that. I think it's the basic psychology of women. They are a little bit schizophrenic. As my wife was always, she explained it to me perfectly. And every woman, no matter how intelligent, how smart, how strong, how old she is, there's always a little 5-year-old girl. And we know, I have a niece. Okay, I know how
No, this is sexism.
9 boxing, no. 5-year-old little girls, they want, when they cannot have it, they want it. When they have it, they don't want it. It's not explainable. It's irrational.
It's the same thing with men, though. Like, to be honest,
it's different. It's
different boxing.
It's
I
boxing.
have a
It's
7-year-old
different.
daughter, so I can partially agree with that. What I would say is that I think people underestimate the power of propaganda. Is all I was saying. Is that like, if anyone has a chance, they should read Rachel Wilson's relatively new book, Occult Feminism, because it really explains the gaslighting.
Yeah, Monolith would disavow that book, but
Oh, Nikolai, no disagreement here. I basically, in particular, the modern kind of feminism is enforcing these natural tendencies, and it's not good. And then you see these, and there comes the notion whatever a man can do, a woman can do it as well, and even better, which is obviously ridiculous. Okay, it's ridiculous, and yeah, I mean,
Kaiser, let me ask you. So you're saying like these? I guess maybe we internalize it, and then they do it more outwardly, because like we still have like certain things. I guess you internalize it differently, but like, so when you see these couples that go to like Disney and get like matching lightsabers, which is cringe. I think we all could agree that's pretty cringe. Is that like almost like a man internalizing it, like being feminine? Because like he's obviously, I guess, replaying a childhood, like, where I was into Star Wars when I was like a little boy, that type of thing. So is that kind of like a men being feminized in a way?
I wouldn't say. I think that's a dangerous position to take. For example, I'm going to do things with my daughter that I would normally not do in my day-to-day life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm, you know what I mean?
Like a couple with no children.
Okay. Yeah, I have a problem with that too. I would agree with you. I think the advent of nerd culture, the soy face guy that was like crying over Star Wars trailers. Yeah, I think that's a endemic of that.
That is just something. Or the 2 gay guys at Disneyland, or I went to Disneyland a couple of years ago by myself. No, just kidding. I went with my children and my mother. It was fun. I enjoyed it. and I did kind of have some nostalgia or something. But there is just something. Maybe it's just a matter of taste. Like I'm not against people going to a baseball game or something like this, but like two gay, like middle-aged gay men going to Disneyland. I mean, and again, I'm not insinuating any sort of criminal activity. I'm not. In fact, it's like worse in effect. It's
I think
just
it's worse for
totally
the straight,
vapid.
Richard. It's worse for the straights. Like it's something like we could accept gay men doing in a way. It's like the straights. It's like a little
Maybe,
more
yeah.
complicated.
It's just so vapid, and like you're trying to revisit some childhood that never existed. You know,
Yeah.
like
You
it's
have
just
expendable
sad.
income. You have expendable income. You don't have children, and you mock us straight people by going to Disneyland. No, go do something we can't. Go do something that you can like not have kids around for, and it's fine. Go rock climbing or something. I'm not saying you have to do it, but Disney is boring. All right, I'm here. I'm going to eat some stuff, and I'm going to leave. And it's all commercialized and mass advertising and research behind every product. That's where you want your limited amount
The
of
TikTok trend,
to go.
dink. Yeah, the TikTok trend dink. Like when people are like, I'm a dink, I can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I do all of that and I'm married with a child. and that, so I totally agree with you, Tap. I think it's that. And also, I think another thing that's really weirds me out is this like adult cosplaying that's happening right now. Have you guys ever seen those videos pop up of like adults doing D&D and they're like acting
or
out
worse,
like that?
or worse,
And I'm
or
just
even
like,
more obscure characters, the strange
oh
people.
yeah, it's so, but the thing is they get super into it and like will start like make believing with their husbands right there, like making out with another person because they're in like a relationship in the D&D setting. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're infantile. You haven't grown up. You're 40 years old and you're
unsavory.
still acting like children.
But when you guys hear dink, don't you think of like Willem Dafoe, like talking about like I got two dinks in the fucking woods? You know what I mean? Like that's what I think. Like that was my first.
No, but you did just make me think of Willem Dafoe, where he's like, "What are you doing?" And the dude's like, "I'm trying to cuddle." He's like, "Fucking," and I'll leave it at that.
The reference of
Yeah, you know what's interesting? The whole, let's say, cosplay. I mean, grown adult men LARPing and nerdy. Actually, that was a privilege of nobility. You know, if you're because they did it all the time. Really infantile. I mean, I was remembered because we have two Russians here with Zegunel and Nikolai. I mean, not Russians, but you get my meaning. You know, I remember. I always have to remember the miracle of House Brandenburg, you know, 7 Years War, the Prussians completely on the losing side. And then what happens? Empress Elizabeth of Russia is dying. And the next one, Emperor Peter III, he was a total simp for Frederick the Great. Like, he even said, oh,
Yeah,
I
he
wish...
was a German, basically.
No.
Kaiser,
He was not a German. He was not a
thanks to
German.
his nonsense, Paul I also loved the Germans.
I'm just saying, Peter III becomes emperor, and he said, "Oh man, I wish I could be a general in Frederick's army. That would be way more awesome than the be stupid emperor." You know. And he, anyway, what he did, he made peace with Prussia. Prussia survived. You know, it's crazy, but I'm saying those people existed always, but it was a privilege of nobility. I mean, the normal average, let's say, the farmer, you know, or the citizens, the burger, and let's say the townspeople, they didn't have time actually to indulge in these kind of stuff, you know. It was, but you see, basically, we have all become a little bit of nobility in that regard, you know. We have a lot of free time, and we can indulge in our, let's say, more infantile kind of nature, you know, which is, yeah, it's interesting, very interesting development here. Yeah.
Let's carve out one exception though. If you're in the college age years and you are making a suit of armor out of natural light boxes or Bud Light, something to that effect, and LARPing and having a fight as if you're a medieval knight, that is perfectly acceptable until you complete your bachelor's.
Okay, if you say so, Tap. I mean, yeah, let's give it a pass.
Yeah, why not? Why not, Tap?
Hannah might
ahead,
have
Hannah,
something
yeah.
interesting to say.
Oh, I just wanted to say, one, Rachel Wilson's book is good. So, two, Richard, so being a felon on a dating app actually is against most of their terms of service. So, it
Oh,
depends.
that's why I keep getting kicked off. Okay.
Someone would
Maybe
have to
that's
like report you, and I don't know a breakdown. There may be one that allows them, but yeah, I read an article a while ago about a guy who like was a felon, kept getting reported whenever he would like honestly tell people, and apparently like it is against like
well,
most of their
isn't
terms of
that
service.
just kind of fundamentally unfair? I mean, it's like
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
much of dating has gone online. I mean, it's not like a niche thing anymore. And I mean,
yeah.
don't we have a sense of like you're convicted, you serve time, you're out. I mean, you like
No.
Unfortunately,
you have
no,
a
not when
new
it
a
comes to
fresh
Not when it
start.
felonies.
comes
I
to
mean,
gun rights. Your gun rights are basically permanently, almost, not
Yeah,
really.
if
well,
you commit a
and
violent felony, I would presume.
no, any
No,
felony.
any felony.
If you embezzle money from your company, you're going to get your
Yeah,
gun rights taken away.
Correct.
yeah,
Yep,
and
yep, 100%.
there's only,
Yep.
I think there's 15 states, I believe, that have like an automatic way to restore your voting rights if you're like a first time felon. But outside of that, there's some states where you have to apply for it, which okay. There's other states that it doesn't matter. If you're a felon, you don't vote ever again, period, the end. But in Louisiana specifically, you have to specifically apply to get your Second Amendment rights back unless you get pardoned. My husband's been pardoned, so that he's like fully forgiven, all rights restored.
Yeah. A
But
lot of this has to do with how felonies used to be. Like, we've just overexpanded felonies. Everything's a felony now. Back in the day, the punishment for felonies during the founding of the United States, it was only the death penalty. That was the only penalty there was for felonies in the
Oh
founding
wow.
of the United States. Yeah.
right, yeah. So anyway, I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted to throw that out
there
there.
should be a lawfare is a huge thing in the United States right now. Like it's so bloated compared to a lot of countries. Like a lot of countries are not nearly as bloated legally as the United States. Like people like it boggles their minds here in Korea that you can like be bankrupt by going to court. Like it just boggles their mind. They're like, "What? How do you go bankrupt going to court?" Right? In America, it's used as a weapon oftentimes, and I think that's something that really that's like a huge thing that no politician ever talks about is like we just need to like literally like wipe away like 80% of the law in the United States. Like seriously, we have so much redundant stuff and it's ridiculous.
I used to
Did
really
you know
look
that
down.
it's a felony to give someone a deer that you shot if you don't do a transfer tag?
That's
It's
just
a felony.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, you would lose
yeah,
your right to vote or your right to own a firearm because you gave someone a
yes,
deer. Yeah, that's just
yeah.
absurd.
And the United States
Well, that's
government, what makes it
assuming if
worse is
they
the United
actually
States.
their laws they don't enforce.
No, it is
That's
stupid,
assuming if
but
they actually
what's
prosecute it. A lot of times they'll
but
give
that's
you a plea deal, but you know.
well, nuance.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that the United States government, let's say they had a shtick with Richard, and they said, well, we need to take this guy out. All they would have to do is dig into his past just a little bit, do some background look, and say, oh, he did this one felony like 10 years ago,
No
and
doubt.
we're gonna
Well,
like
then you run
just
into
bring him to
statute
the
of
ground.
limitations. You run into statute
Well,
of
I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
I'm
his
just
point
using. I'm being
stands. His point
facetious.
stands, though. Yeah.
Yeah, Harvey
No, it's very
Silvergate's
true.
book, 3 Felonies a Day, won me over. Until that point, I was looking respectfully, I was looking down on those who had past criminal backgrounds. But after reading that book, I kind of realized like we all break the law every day, exaggeration, and it's kind of when they decide to use that information, if it's there, and to Nuance's point about statute of limitations, they can use it against you. So we're all criminals when they choose to decide we are.
Well, they keep
Well,
expanding it all the time. They do these retroactive bills because of some Harvey Weinstein case or something, and then now it's like, oh, well, now we can go back forever, and there is no statute of limitations.
well, in nuance, you said like, okay, they might give you a plea deal if they choose to like, prosecute you. The game warden actually is the way that they catch a lot of criminals because the game warden has like a ton of liberties that other law
Oh yeah, they
enforcement
can like search
people
your
don't have.
car.
They can
They
search your
don't have.
freezer. So you should never keep large amounts of cash in your freezer because they don't need a search warrant. And I don't know how it is legally, but I would assume that they can report you for whatever they see in your house while they're walking to your freezer.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
plain view rule.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, but there's tons of criminals who get caught this way. This was like this is one of Tony's like felon tips, I guess, that he learned the hard way through like friends or whatever. That like,
Yeah.
you know, you want to be very careful with the game warding because they will get you that way.
Speaking on that, the game wardens in Pennsylvania, you can get a what is it, like a gun range pass to use at like all the state game lands, and they have a rule where if you're using the range, you can't shoot more than 3 rounds off in a single like mag. So of course I have like 30-round mags, and I had to put like 3 in each one. There was one where I had a 4th in by accident, and I shot them off consecutively just for shits and giggles, and a fucking ranger comes bursting out of the bushes like he's a fucking like camouflage like spy, like just waiting for me to do something wrong.
Ghillie suit sniper.
He gave me a fucking ticket for it, like a $250 fine, and like I had it, and of course I'm like, all right, this guy's a fucking like rent-a-cop. I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. And I left it in my visor, and I rarely even put it down because I wear sunglasses because I'm not like, you know, a boomer. And I forgot about it, and like months passed, and out of nowhere I'm like at my dad's like estate, and out of nowhere like 4 black Suburbans come flying down his driveway, and it's a bunch of muscular like roided out fucking guys, and they start talking to my dad. They're like, is your son on the premises? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And they're like, we're from the state game warden's office, and you have a warrant out for your arrest. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't even hunt, dude. Like, what are you doing here? So you have an unpaid fine from like 6 months ago. I'm like, all right, well, I'll just fucking pay it. So I wrote a check, and they fucked off. But yeah, what Hannah's saying, it's ridiculous. They're like the epitome of like rent-a-cops with like way too much funding and way too much power, especially in Pennsylvania.
Well, it's a federal agency, and
It's
to
like
be
always
honest,
exactly the wrong people who take their job seriously enough. It's like the most annoying people to possibly take their job seriously. That is without a doubt always the people that will be the case of.
Like, don't you guys have
it's a
some
federal
hillbilly
agency
who
because
killed
it
a deer
always
to go harass instead of like some guy who popped an extra round off because you guys are bored and watch me all day? Like, okay.
they're required to have college degrees, so it's like they're usually like a bunch of really high scoring academics that like leave college and like, you know, grow a couple hairs on their chest. But I remember I was like fly fishing in Washington State one time, and I'm out there by myself, and this guy comes out, and he like parks up next to me. He's just drinking beer, and the game warden rolls up. And when you're out like on the river, you don't want to walk all the way back to your car, so you just put your fishing license like in your waders, right? And as soon as the game warden rolls up, he just looks at me and goes, "Oh fuck." That guy was a wanted cartel member. He had a gold-plated AK-47 and 10 kilograms of cocaine in his car, and he was just casually fly fishing on one of the rivers in Washington State. It was nuts. But
They weaponize
also,
the game warden a lot.
one
Yeah.
thing that's interesting is like if you have any NFA items, so NFA items are like short-barreled rifles, suppressors, you have to you sign a certain document through the ATF agreeing that you store them in a safe that's met to their standard, and they do unfortunately have the right to come and inspect that safe whenever they want. So that's
Is that true? Is that true for like the personally owned NFA items, or is that just for class 3 dealers and shit?
It's
you know,
true, unfortunately.
true, and I don't want to knock on some wood, but I've never heard of anybody having to get inspected unless they got in trouble for something else, like buying a sear on, you know, AR15.com or a fully automatic Glock on AR15.
Well, yeah, those are people who are just breaking the law like straight up. But
well, and it's funny because they always have like 5 or 6 legally registered NFA items.
Really?
With tax stamps,
I
yeah,
don't know
and
about
then
that.
they no, I know a handful of them, and then they're like,
imagine
oh, I'm gonna
being
get
so
froggy,
stupid.
I'm gonna get froggy, you know, I got all these legally owned suppressors and machine guns, and now I'm gonna get, you know, froggy and buy a sear pin off Etsy.
It gives them an easy pretense to do so. Like a lot of them have used it for, you know, these searches and seizures. You don't hear about it often because, again, it's like legal, so technically it's not as
Doesn't hit the local news either.
Here's the
Exactly.
wild one. It's called 922R, which if you're a gun person, maybe you know 922R compliance. Basically, it's this weird law where these like semi-auto rifles have to have a certain amount of American parts on it, or I can't remember if it's American parts or like a certain amount of foreign parts it can't exceed. It's one or the other, and yeah, it's against the law, even though. So you have to like swap out all these parts when you're building a gun, and I don't know anyone who's ever been prosecuted for that exclusively. Like, I guess I don't know of a single case on the books where someone's like just been prosecuted for that. But it's just like one of these stupid laws that just
Well, it's not
need
stupid to
be.
them though, because they again, the reason they the
They don't
deep
even know how to
state and
prove
all,
it. How are they going to fucking prove it?
they don't need to. They can, because what they can use is throw as much spaghetti at the wall as they can. That's why they have all these ridiculous redundant laws, so that they
No,
can throw as much
because
on
one
the
of the
book as
parts,
possible.
for example, one of the parts is a piston on like an AK bolt carrier, right? You tell me how you know that piston is not U.S. made. Like I fucking made that. Oh, I made that shit. Like I
Oh,
claim
I
it.
wouldn't
Prove it.
know. I'm sure
Prove
some
that I didn't
gun
make
nerd.
that shit.
I'm sure some gun nerd could say, "Well, the way that it's spun in the factory at this place tells me that it's from
They have
Finland or
no
something like that."
idea. They have no clue. It doesn't
I'm
have
reading
any
this
stamping
regulation.
or
It's
No, I
anything.
agree with
ridiculous.
you. I'm just saying that they'll use whatever they can to just bring you through the ringer if they have enough willpower to do it. So if you're a popular enough of a person or somebody they think they can get money from, et cetera, they're going to bring you through the ringer. They do it all the time. I also think, like, I don't think people that do like embezzling should go to prison. I think that the way our laws work, sending guys like white collar crimes to prison is stupid. I think we should like
No,
force them to have
disagree.
to pay back their stuff.
No,
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 I think like
no.
say like Bernie
Bernie Madoff should have been like that should have been a capital crime. Like that should be death penalty.
But him
well
going to
his
prison didn't get anybody their money back. If he was
that's what
like
I'm saying.
if he was made to be like an indentured servant in some kind of work release program, then like that
Agreed.
might actually be beneficial to
Okay,
the
but
people he stole
wait,
from.
hold on. But that require like under the 13th Amendment, in order to kind of do some sort of slavery shit like that, you'd kind of have to imprison them.
Oh yeah, no, I mean a work release program, like those
You know
people
this,
are
Hannah. You have
still
all those
in
like
prison.
creative workarounds around the 13th Amendment. That
Yeah. No, I mean a work release program, like you are technically in prison, but I'm just saying having him like sit in a cot and like waste.
Uh-oh. Your shit disconnected. Now she's echoing.
So I'm looking at this compliance right now, and the ironic part about it to me is the magazine counts as a gun part, but there's all these magazine laws in random states. And it's separated into three parts: the body, the follower, and the floor plate.
Correct. So the funny thing is, you can have a gun under 922R that's completely compliant, but if you enter in a magazine, which adds extra parts in there, and those are foreign parts, then you just broke the law. So literally your friend could hand you a mag, and then you put it in the gun, and you just violated the law. Whereas if it's an American magazine, it's all totally fine. It's the dumbest shit. Like, how is that a crime? It's insane.
So I guess all these fuel filters I bought from China that happen to miraculously fit on the end of a lot of my firearms, I should probably not keep them within the same room as my firearms.
Yeah, fuel filters. I'm sure
There's
that's
literally
definitely
a
not
dude.
suppressors. Yeah.
So one of my buddies at the gym that I work at, he's like the main like Ford service tech at the local dealership. And he had 3 of his employees get picked up by the ATF for manufacturing suppressors at work at the Ford dealership.
Yeah. I mean, wait, where was this? What state? Was this Michigan or something or what?
I'll send it to you in the DMs.
Okay, because if it's Texas, that could be interesting because Texas has that suppressor law, but everyone's like, nah, that's the feds are still going to come after you. It doesn't matter.
What's cool about a lot of the like gun ranges in like Florida, what they'll do is they'll actually like while you're waiting for your tax stamp, they'll keep your NFA items there and you can use them like at the range. Unlike other locations where they just throw them in a safe and are like, all right, see you in 7 months.
They do that in California too. Some of the gun stores, when you're doing the 10-day waiting period or whatever, you can still like pick it up, and if they have a gun range at the gun store or whatever, if it's one of those places, you can still like shoot it and stuff during the 10-day waiting period. Which that's going to go bye-bye too soon, by the way.
Richard, what's your take on all these guns?
Oh, he's anti-gun. He wants us to be like Europe and shit.
Not kind of. To be honest, I'm not that interested in gun talk. I mean, I'm not anti-gun. I mean, I feel like the American obsession with guns. I remember there was this webzine a while ago that was called Gun Fag, and I think that's a good description. I find it a bit of an unhealthy obsession. Like, there's cool uses of guns. Like, obviously you have a right to defend yourself. You don't need some like militarized shit to do that. There's like hunting or, bird hunting and stuff. But this like going to the range and firing off all this stuff and like pretending like you're a commando from 1985's Commando and just firing all. I've seen pictures.
No,
of
it's Red Dawn. Red Dawn.
Red Dawn. Yeah, this just strikes. This is, for me, this is the equivalent of like 40-year-old parents with no children going to Disneyland. Like, this is up there.
That sounds great. That sounds fantastic. What are you talking about?
I don't totally disagree.
You're consistent, Nuance.
I've always enjoyed marksmanship. I enjoy going to the range. I like seeing how well I can do. I like practice the breathing. But I'll take that slight on the Disneyland thing. But I'm also
you understand
walking up there trying to be tactical.
Yeah, and like those Christmas card photos of like families with their 5-year-old holding.
Yeah, Thomas Massey. I love it. I love it.
I do not love it. Please stop.
America.
It's a little cringe. Like, come on.
No, I love it.
And we're very pro 2A around here. But come on.
Everybody always decries, American culture. What is it? That's it right there. And it's awesome. It's beautiful. And you want to take that away. You want to destroy the very little thing that is American culture. You want to rip it away.
It's like a bastardization of what was a rural and weirdly kind of aristocratic. Kaiser will understand this. Hunting was an aristocratic sport, and with America there was a lot more freedom. You could do it as a commoner, and that's interesting. And I'm not like my maternal grandfather in particular. He was a very big bird hunter. He was actually very good shot. He won a few competitions. I mean, it wasn't exactly the Babe Ruth of pheasant hunting and so on, but he won some competitions. I like that whole culture. I just look at this now, like those images I see from like an NRA convention, like pink guns and like kids.
I love it. I love the Hello Kitty guns.
I do not know. Nuance, you just have no taste.
No, Richard,
It does sound a little gun happy, I'm not gonna lie. It's one thing to have guns, but just like, ooh, guns.
So
I mean, like you see those images of people where like some people have a like vintage vinyl collection, and then other people have like a massive gun collection. Like they'll just lay them out on their carpet, and it's just this insane. And it's not even like vintage or collectible. It's like I could go to war, Arnold Schwarzenegger style, and I'm just like,
that's the American spirit.
Give me a
that's
break.
The
it's not nuance.
It is.
Red
Dawn is America.
It's dead.
Absolutely.
But the frontier spirit's dead, though. Let's be fair. You're living in a time that doesn't exist anymore.
Wait. Hold on. Okay, so we bought a previously flooded town. It is certainly frontier territory. There was a bear in my brother's front yard. What if he hadn't had a gun? Like this
for the engines, though.
This is necessary.
He could have died like a European commoner, and he could have
You
just
shoot a
died
bear and it's gonna kill you. You don't
with
shoot
honor.
bears.
Yes, you do. A bear is
If
going
you
to kill
shoot
you
a
if
bear,
you
you
don't
better
shoot it.
bring a huge caliber weapon. You shoot a bear
Not
with like
really.
a
You don't need a
35
huge caliber
caliber,
weapon.
it's going to be like the
What
equivalent
the
of
fuck
It
is a
depends what kind of
35
bear it
caliber?
is.
whatever.
I want the bear to be
Nuance,
really
Caliber
don't
for
angry
a
give me
so it
this
bear.
kills me
bullshit.
quick.
You guys, you are gun nerds. You know too much. And so like I'll say something and you're like, "Oh, see,
But
he
you
doesn't
don't even know what you're
anything
saying.
about
That's the thing.
Yeah,
You're like,
Nuance,
you got to
I
bring a
do know what
bazooka
I'm
to kill a bear. Like, no, people
Richard
kill
just
bears
knows
all the
Nuance.
time
in
with
the gun
guns.
and you fire it. That's
It's an
all you
animal
need
that
to
people
know.
hunt all the time.
Well,
Nuance,
listen, just for the record.
a large grizzly bear, you cannot shoot a handgun at that thing. That
No one said a
handgun better be
handgun. That's what the
gigantic.
rifles are for. First of all, you can
Right.
shoot a
You don't
handgun.
need a big
They
rifle. You
literally
have to shoot
designed
a hedgehog.
handguns to kill bears. It's called the Smith and Wesson 500. But you can't. People use rifles to kill bears all the time. That's the point.
Yeah, I
I'll
think
punch a bear in the goddamn face.
nuance, my dear friend, nuance. I think there's a balance to it. It's like with these, let's say, I mean, I like swords, all that stuff. But it's like with these weebos, or how you call it, weeabows, with the katana, the magic Japanese sword, which can cut through everything. There's a balance. Yeah, that's a balance.
Get some balance in your life. Yeah,
Like,
you know too much about this stuff, Nuance. I'm worried. It's just weird.
But I think
Richard, you know too much about like esoteric German philosophy. We all have our thing.
Please do not equate like gun faggery with reading.
I think,
I mean, come on.
Listen, you think one is more useful. I think the other is more useful. It's okay. At least it's not. At least it's not
What are your
NFL.
thoughts on?
Hold on. At least it's not like NFL stats, like so and so, fucking quarterback from 1976 had 4 touchdowns in that season. Like that to me is useless, beyond useless. The gun stuff is more interesting. Philosophy, whatever. You want to sound snobby in the space? I get it. It's fine.
But what about baseball statistics? Are they okay?
No, those are all stupid.
Oh, good Lord. See, you just don't have taste.
If you're making
you're
money
telling
off
me
it, it's fine.
I mean, Ted Williams batting
statistics.
for 400.
You're telling me baseball statistics are more useful than gun knowledge?
It's not about useful. See, you're such an American. You've been like assimilated to the worst aspects of American culture.
No, it's
since your
communism
immigration.
like Kaiser. It's all utilitarian principles. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know communism and Americanism are like the same thing, just different methods. Like, yeah, someone who can like tell me about some like fascinating anecdote about Ted Williams hitting a home run in his final at bat, and like there's something kind of cool about that.
And then I shoot them in the face because that's gun
nuance.
knowledge.
See, exactly. You shoot them in the face as opposed to talking with them.
And if they live,
that's how
they
you
say,
handle.
You guys know Ted
That's how you
Williams
handle
is actually
everything.
half Mexican.
Like a living Call of Duty.
Richard, now you understand Hamas. Now you understand.
Nuance. It's fun though. Like you can
the
go
Mooney
to the
range,
range,
you guys
and
see
it's a
that
good
video game?
de-stressor.
Did you guys see that video game? Did you see that video game that they released on Steam?
That looked like fun. I'm not gonna
Ready or
lie.
not?
Oh my god! And the guy goes, "Allahu Akbar," and stabs. It's unbelievable.
It was great because right as
you
this was
think
brought up,
of the Moonies, the Rod of Iron Ministries. Do you know who I'm talking about? The Korean church that has been like
I know about
accused
the Moonies,
of...
but what about?
Do you think they're maybe taking the gun stuff a little too far? Does it become cringe when you're like having a giant bonfire to worship the AR-15 or whatever Vice accused them of doing?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with that aspect of their cult, but
What is like the Jesus AR-15 church that's like here? I think. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Rod of Iron Ministries. That's what I was referring to. It's like a Korean.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Also, okay,
it's a little
take
much.
This. I agree. It's just much, too much. Did you guys see this case of? There was like a divorced dad. He was living someplace where there's a castle law, and his wife was being, as I'm not bashing women here, but as they do, like during these kinds of situations, they're difficult. They tell you the wrong time to show up and all this kind of typical behavior.
Oh,
anyway.
you're talking about the Kyle Caruth situation.
Yeah. Well, let me
that
explain
video
it.
is awful.
Okay. So the dad, who's the father, was, I think, justifiably really pissed, right? And then the new husband comes out and he's like, "Get off my lawn," and like, "I'm going to shoot you." And then they got into this literal chest thumping macho contest. And I think both of them were, to blame for that. But the guy just shoots the man. I mean, like,
Well,
yeah, he was.
You saw the dad
that,
was grabbing
look,
the
come
dude's
on,
gun.
Nuance.
He was grabbing the guy's gun. What are you talking about? Look
Nuance,
at the video.
you can't just inflict the death penalty on people.
If someone's grabbing your lethal weapon, like, yeah, you can use deadly force. Absolutely.
Listen, I got
What's he supposed to do? I know you're trying to kill me, but you know
now
what?
it
I'll
gets
just
a
go
bit
ahead
more
and die.
complicated.
Wait
in
a
that
minute.
situation.
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
minute.
Zach, give me a second.
Let Zach offer some nuance here.
Zach,
Nuance,
hold on,
quote
hold on.
unquote, bro.
Zach, let me finish
Wait
my
a minute.
point.
Evidently, they knew each other, didn't they? Did they not
Yes,
know
that's
one another?
Quote unquote,
we
bro.
just talked
So
about that. It was a
why-
custody dispute.
Why on earth would he exit his home talking to the ex-husband of his wife and bring out a fucking gun with him?
Okay, did you
It's
see?
just
I don't think you
outrageous.
It's
I don't think you
ridiculous,
remember.
man. Like, I'm all about guns, but like, I know the guy. I'm gonna leave my gun inside. I'm gonna have like my knife on me. Like, I
No,
always
he didn't
do.
have the gun initially. He didn't have the gun
So what
initially.
I
happened?
know.
Remember
He
what
went
happened?
back and brought a gun
So it's a
out.
pure
It's
escalation.
just
and just-
nuance. Like, look, men.
I'm all
We
about
I'm
have
not
a
saying I would
tendency.
handle it the same way.
Well, okay, but how is that not a crime? We're talking about all these situations where I agree with you. Like, there's too much regulation. You should just let people, it's going to be okay. You don't have to arrest everyone for weird shit. I totally agree. How is that not a crime? That's like why we have laws.
All right, well,
It's a situation like that.
I was trying to explain the situation. So, initially, the guy's outside without a gun, but he's telling the guy, "Hey, leave." There's clearly a misunderstanding. In my opinion, you call the police and wait for the police to handle it. That's what you do in a civilized society. You don't have to get involved with all the it's those types of situations. Domestic dispute situations are like the most dangerous calls that police have to go on. Okay. So you call the police and you wait for them to sort things out. You don't try to get all violent or whatever. The guy tells him, "Leave my property." It's not his kid, but it's his property. You are supposed to leave the property. The guy's not leaving. Under Texas law, you are allowed to use force, not deadly force, to get someone to leave your property. That can include the presentation of a firearm, right?
Okay, that right there.
I know you disagree with that. Hold on. Let me
If you
explain the rest
pull
of
a
the
gun on someone, that means you're using it. That is one thing that I learned from, I actually did a gun training class. Do never brandish a weapon pointed at someone unless you are using it. It's the last
It wasn't
recall.
pointed at first. It was not.
He brought
pointed at
out
him, by the
a
way.
long rifle.
It wasn't a long rifle.
Who's
It was
like,
a pistol caliber carbine. It was different.
Okay, stop the gun faggery. All right, it was a long gun. Give me a break.
It was a pistol.
You do all this stuff. You focus on technicalities as opposed to like the essence of the matter.
Well,
because you know too much.
Hold on. Did you just say stop the gun faggery? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
I can't.
Anywho,
I apologize
to
homosexuals everywhere.
He had it pointed down, and he even I don't recommend this, the warning shot thing. That's like a movie thing, but he did warning shots or whatever. The guy then decides, instead of backing off or whatever, he's like reaching for the gun, grabbing the firearm. At that point, you can assume lethal intent when someone's trying to grab your firearm. You have the right to shoot. Now, where it gets complicated is he kind of like gets pushed off the porch or whatever, and he's at a distance. And then you could argue, and this is the point people did argue, that's why it's kind of a nuanced case, is then at that point he's no longer a threat. The self-defense, the lethal force no longer applies. But it's still defensible, I would say, from my point of view. that it is.
Yeah, but nuance as an outsider here. I'm an
Because
outsider.
he was still indicating
How
he
you
was like,
describe
well,
it, it's,
whatever.
Well,
it
let
sounds
Kaiser talk as a German.
as an outside perspective, it sounds very like the cliche Hollywood movie. Like, okay,
I know. This is a foreign concept to you guys. I get it.
No, nuance. Basically, you can make an argument. I'm not a lawyer, but couldn't you say that the dude with the gun or whatever caliber was actually escalating the situation? Because I mean, nuance.
Correct.
Fight or flight. If you are threatened by a weapon, two reactions: either you flight, you leave the situation, or you're getting defensive and you try to attack.
The idea that you would
I
flee,
would say the dude with the
that's why we
gun.
have castle doctrine laws in the first place.
Yeah, but
oftentimes that cover curtilage. So when someone's on your property at your home, that is your castle. You have no duty to flee your castle. That is absurd. The idea that you would have to run out of your own house.
No, not that good. No. Nuance. You
We're
misunderstood
asking
me.
that he retreat to his house, Nuance.
Nuance, you misunderstood me here.
You can't just shoot people.
You misunderstood me.
Lawn.
So two guys, let's say Nuance,
exactly
Nuance, my friend, please give me a chance here, man. Foreign language, please give me a fucking chance, okay? Nuance, you and I have a dispute, okay? In front of your house door, okay? Then you go inside, you take your gun. You escalate the situation because now it might get lethal. You did that. If I would be a lawyer, I would get your ass because then my reaction. I was talking about my reaction is either fight or flight. Fight or flight. Either I leave the situation or I feel so threatened that I have to take action against you. Basically, you were forcing my hand.
I would do it this way.
I know
would go
you
back
wouldn't.
into my house, wait for the police.
Exactly.
Of course. But
exactly.
I'm saying under the law, especially in the state of Texas, it is not considered lethal force just to present a firearm. Even pointing it at a person in the state of Texas is not considered lethal force. So that is considered a form of force where if you ask someone to leave your property and you demand it and they refuse to do so and they continue taking aggressive action, you're trespassing them at that point. You are allowed to use force to remove that person. That's
just went through
Texas,
this 2 weeks ago in Texas.
That's not necessarily true in all states. Some states do consider it lethal force when you point a gun at someone, or even they'll have like brandishing statutes and stuff. But in Texas, it's a bit different. So,
yep. And when you raise, that is okay. That's escalating. That's proportionality. You have to start. Sometimes verbal judo doesn't work. Sometimes you do have to make it known that you do have a firearm. You raise it, you continue with your commands, you try and get them to comply. It doesn't mean you necessarily fire. So I get that old trope, never point a firearm at someone you don't intend to kill. However, there definitely are exceptions, and it is a way to get attention between your voice, your inflection, and then making it clear that you have that firearm with you.
And in many cases, castle doctrine extends beyond your front step or your front porch, as in your entire property. Like we have couple dozen acres, and to just say that my castle, to say my castle is just my domicile, my dwelling, it doesn't really make sense.
Follow and nuance a question here, maybe a little bit technical, and maybe I'm going too much now into triman territory. But what if you have a mortgage on your house? Can you really say it's your property? It's basically the bank's property.
Stop.
Come on, man.
This is ridiculous.
It goes so much further. In Pennsylvania, if I'm out driving and somebody actually comes at me in my vehicle,
it's your domicile.
It's my car when I'm out in public and I'm in my vehicle. If someone's trying to break into my car and they're presenting like a form of deadly force, I can shoot them dead on the spot. Because again,
it's the bank's
in our state, it extends to your vehicle as well. So if I'm driving around and I'm in a Hellcat, which I will never own because let's face it, basketball people are going to chase me down and try to steal it. Then if that happens, I can shoot every basketball enthusiast on the spot, and it's perfectly legal in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Pennsylvania.
I was trying to be funny.
Weird.
I mean, was I funny? Yes or no? Was it a good joke?
It was a good joke. That was a good joke.
Look, I'm a simple.
I chuckled.
Pennsylvania is a bit weird because they have a duty to retreat unless there is a deadly weapon present or something. It's really weird. I don't like Pennsylvania's duty to retreat law.
It can extend to threats made in addition to that, which is why all of our cameras have audio on them as well.
Yeah. So, shit. What was the? Oh, here, I'm a simple man. You do not fuck with a man at his home. Like you do that. My sympathies are like almost entirely on the side of the man whose house you are at. Like, don't do that. Just be a
Yeah, like
reasonable person. Let the
what you're
police
saying there,
handle it if you have a dispute.
there's fight or flight, and then there's fuck around and find out. You can choose either argument, but ultimately the law is going to decide which one's the superior argument to be made. And fuck around, find out just happens to be the superior one in the state with Castle Doctrine, and stand your ground as well.
I mean, follow. Yeah. I agree with you, man. If someone, let's say, if Nuance gets out with his rifle, let's say with his MG42,
well, that's a bit absurd.
I believe the property. I believe the property. You know, because okay, yeah, I get you. It's a surreal situation, and normally it shouldn't happen because but it can happen, and in this case, it happened. Yeah, unfortunately. But what about if someone wants to carjack you? Like I saw a video where a bunch of couples, a bunch of people, I wanted to basically mug a dude.
Rough day for Nuance here today, friends. Just thought see up in the
servus, Charles. Servus, Charles.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If someone's trying to carjack
Why rough day for Nuance?
you shoot them. Like, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, like I said, Castle Doctrine extends to your vehicle here. If someone's trying to do it, you can shoot them on the spot, period.
Nuance,
let Chuck tell me about the terrible Musk news. Go ahead, Chuck.
Musk is being forced to testify in the Twitter because remember what SEC stands for, suck Elon's cock, and that's what Nuance is all about. And then, of course, the other bad news...
Well, it's better than Hunter Biden, Chuck.
The other bad news is U.S. Supreme Court declines to block Illinois ban on assault-type rifles and large-capacity magazines. I don't know how you would know it was better than Hunter Biden's unless you what that both.
Well, wait, do you understand what that was about, right? They're asking for, like, a preliminary injunction from Justice Barrett. This isn't an actual review by the court, so it's still going to be litigated.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean,
they just refused an injunction, basically.
They're going to lose, by the way. They're going to lose.
Okay, Nuance.
Okay, it's also a sad day for
Richard. Now and laying it out for display, like a typical American. It's been a while, making sure everything's nice and lubed. Oh, I missed you, Freedom Instruments. We missed you too, Tap.
I mean, Chuck, if you think a 6-3 court that, like, put in the Bruin decision by Clarence Thomas is not going to overturn an assault weapons ban in Illinois, I mean, I think you're smoking some Hunter Biden crack. I mean, that's what's happening.
Well, it is a performance-enhancing drug, but if you saw the FCC...
Depends on the performance. Because of the stimulant effects, it's going to give you stim dick, and then you won't be able to...
Just don't get naked, strap a GoPro on yourself, and start recording everything while you're at it.
Or have the Israelis hack your computer and take pictures of you. That's the other one. And, of course, you saw the other great news about the FCC screwing over Elon for his $900 million subsidy for rural broadband.
I saw that was the SpaceX one. And they basically, the SEC said themselves, like, they had no real rationale for stripping that. And you saw the SEC commissioner guy who dissented as well. Brandon Carr, I believe.
Yeah, the one who's married to what's his face?
Is it a Likud asset?
Well, he's married to somebody who used to work for Kevin McCarthy. So there's that.
So that ties them to the Chinese, I believe. That's like the 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon there.
Well, Kevin McCarthy is no longer speaker in large measure because of all this corruption.
There you go.
I'm enjoying this, Nuance. I'm enjoying it. When Elon goes to jail, like, what's the gift you're going to give me?
Well, you got to give me an ETA. We got to have like a bet on.
Why? Elon always says every few years we're going to have self-driving cars. Why can't I just say every few years Elon Musk's going to go to jail? I mean, it seems only fair.
I suppose you could.
That was a good one.
Thank you.
Richard, are you sad about your statue?
Sad about my what?
What, Charlotte?
Oh, my statue. Yeah, the statue that I actually put up in Iowa to celebrate my dark lord and corrupter was vandalized.
It was beheaded.
By some sort of Calvinist.
Some Chad King beheaded it. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
What
I
are they
just
teaching?
I
assumed.
was
Seventh
personally
grader in Georgia
offended.
that's being taught by
Well,
this.
you were talking about changing your profile pic to the statue yesterday,
To the
so
Dark Lord, yes.
I assumed that you were, invested.
I might do that, even though, especially now, but now more than ever. But I would lose my blue check mark for 2 days or whatever. But okay, this is my argument. I think I said this last night. So look, I get it that the Satanists are a troll organization. They're kind of performatively pushing the limits of like freedom of religion, etc. So I can kind of understand how people don't take them seriously or feel like they're acting in bad faith. And I mean, in more ways than one, they are. But this is where I would defend them. First off, like as I mentioned, Satanists just can't help themselves but be tasteful. Like they were trying to offend people, but what they ultimately did was create an appropriate and, dare I say, festive addition to the holiday atmosphere in the state of Iowa. So he's like in a velvet red cloak, and he reminds me a little bit of Krampus, and it's kind of fun and so on. And then secondly, like the depiction of Satan is not like inherently heretical. I mean, Satan is depicted in the Bible, and in fact, when Satan first maybe he appears in the Garden of Eden, but he's not directly identified as such. But when he appears in the book of Job, I mean, he's hanging out in Yahweh's court of angels and being like, my main man Yahweh, let's go test this guy. Let's see if he's really devoted. And that's how that whole story gets started. So Satan is depicted in churches all over Europe. I've seen, depiction of
Yeah, but this was
hellfire
like
and
an
torture.
altar thing,
Well,
like getting candles around it and stuff.
Well, I know, but we're in this age of Saturnalia. It's time for the world gets a little topsy-turvy. And I mean, are you offended by Santa?
I'm not
Whose name
offended,
might
but
very well derive from Satan. Is that right?
oh my gosh, are you taking the evangelical, like,
Oh no,
if
I
you
think
rearrange
they're
Santa,
actually,
it spells Satan?
They are kind of correct.
Well, they are correct at the base level of their statement. Yes, if you rearrange the letters,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
spells Satan.
no, I don't mean that. I think he is a Vulcan figure who's coming out from the depths. He's a craftsman. There's a Vulcanite trait. He comes through the chinmey. There are a lot of reasons to believe that Santa is Hephaestus, basically. That's how I would locate him.
We don't do Santa, so Well,
okay,
cool.
but my point remains, like, I'm here at a hardware store to pick up a battery because my car beeper thing ran out of battery. So there is a shrine to Santa right in front of me right now. Should I go tear it down in the name of all that is holy?
Yes.
Well, I think Santa and I would argue that
You specifically, I would not recommend such actions, but
yeah, be careful. That might be a felony.
I think that Santa is a fictional character, and you can have fun with it. But I think Satan is very real.
Saint Nicholas,
so I think that's
Saint Nicholas isn't real.
I'm sorry, the Asherah poles will be coming down.
I mean, Andy, Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas is real, but it's the wrong day. It's the 6th of December when Saint Nicholas is coming.
I've never encountered Satan before, Andy.
And with the Krampus. And the thing with the Krampus is, and Richard's actually spot on. I was in Salzburg the weekend, and they have this tradition of the Krampus Lauf, and these masks, they look like, honestly, like horror demons. Like, there are demons from the mountains, and
but
this is the Krampus.
Almost.
Wasn't it Santa Claus at the Council of Nicaea who punched a dude in the face for denying the Holy Trinity?
Yeah, Saint Nick.
Exactly. So
we
how
tell
can
the
you
story
deny
every
the
Christmas
of Santa Claus.
We tell the story every Christmas. It's my children's favorite tradition.
It's a fantastical depiction of him as, this guy that goes down chimneys. Like, that's just
it's from the
a fun myth, right?
From the Coca-Cola company, which is
the only
real.
I mean, I think there's it's a syncretic myth. I mean, there's Christmas is this fascinating combination of all of these different traditions, and they're kind of melded together in like a gumbo, and I think that's what kind of makes it interesting. But yeah, I mean, there's no, again, in the Bible, if you read it closely, was Jesus born on December 25th? I mean, there were shepherds out there tending their flock. I tend to think not. They weren't doing that in late
but all the
December.
catchy songs say he was born on Christmas Day. Jesus was born
Who
on
wrote those
Christmas
songs?
Day.
Who wrote those
Sing
songs?
Richard, I
praises
sent you a
to
video
the
about
That's
King
your
of
evidence,
Kings.
Nuance? I presume
No,
you're
who
joking.
wrote those songs? First of all, and
I
second of
mean,
all,
catchy
Charles
songs are
attributes
evidence
The
to me for the
Jews!
Coca-Cola
to the soul.
Company. It must be true.
Yeah.
But I
I
do
mean,
have a
that is
question.
also largely true, but
This
Coca-Cola Christmas.
this
Charles
You're not
space
allowed to,
conversation.
you're not allowed to talk about the role of Coca-Cola and Christmas,
I mean,
nor are you allowed
yeah,
to talk
yeah,
about all the Jews
Coca-Cola.
Well,
getting
you know that's all
Christmas songs.
communist propaganda. That's why he's all dressed in red. He's got free labor from
Absolutely,
Yelp. They're all
absolutely.
dressed the
God.
same.
No, the space is on fire.
He puts his
Nuance
No,
was
face on all the
it's
Coke
very,
cans and the
it's
merchandise.
very obvious that the Jews wrote the best
Santa's
Christmas
Stalin.
songs, and you have to celebrate all of those Christmas songs so that they can get royalties. That's how you pay your reparations as a Christian.
The children that get coal are actually Santa's favorites because they're gonna, form state controlled industry with that coal.
right.
Yeah.
Guys, I have a question. I know this is not so funny, but Yule log, is this a thing in North America? The Yule log?
To a degree, everyone calls it, people will say like Happy Yuletide or something like that. I think people know about a Yule log. I think I've seen one like twice in my life though.
Isn't that dessert too? You can make a dessert.
Yeah.
It's like
The
that exists.
Christmas bouche, la bouche.
Isn't the
Bouche
isn't the
Noel.
Yule log on Netflix the one of the most watched videos?
That might be true. Oh yeah, it's like you put it on your television as like
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome. And then you can sleep. This nice. Yeah, and absolutely cool. I like that. But I make that via YouTube.
Let's go back to the original point though, because I do have to go into this hardware store and purchase a battery. So Hannah, you are totally defending this man, breaking the law or not. He's doing God's work by beheading the smartly dressed goat.
He was made out of pool noodles, but yes, I defend this man.
Okay, that's fair.
I do too. I'm actually having a competition between Ben Zeisloft and William Wolf. Whoever gets more likes reporting on it will get a donation on their name.
Okay.
I think it's very simple. We should be encouraging more lawless behavior around the holiday times, and I'm all for it.
Why?
Knock down that Santa statue, take a piss on Frosty the Snowman, have a good time.
There's something mentally wrong with you.
Disavow all of
It's
that.
just not funny.
Richard,
Disavow all
someone
of
made a
that.
meme. Someone made a meme.
Richard,
of look in the jumbo.
Richard, I have a question. For you. So the presupposition here is that Hannah and I feel that the satanic shrine is detrimental and harmful to society. But for you, if there is something that is harmful to society as a whole and damaging, regardless of what it is, do you believe that citizens have a civic duty to stop that harmful action?
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, if I were in charge, we would have a different monument policy, and I think these things are important. I totally get it. This is my argument, which I'm not sure you guys have picked up on. I am arguing that from your perspective, a statue of Satan is actually appropriate. That's what I'm arguing, actually. So I'm being very devious here.
I actually do understand your argument. I just don't agree because of the nature of the statue. Like, I don't have an issue with Satan being depicted in art in a biblical way, but that's not what was happening here.
Right. Yeah, I'm on the same page as Hannah. If it's a depiction of, if it's a painting of Satan falling, and if it's showing God's glory and defeating him, I'm okay with that. But if it's something that could be idolized and worshipped, then I'm not okay with it.
I don't want either in a federal or state building.
But you would want like the 10 Commandments or something in the state building.
Absolutely
No?
not.
Okay. Okay.
I would.
I would.
Yeah.
No surprise there, Hannah. No
I
surprise
like
there.
simplicity. I don't want it to be all cluttered. We want minimalistic, interiors.
I'm just being honest. My standard is not fair. I don't pretend that it is.
And that's the respectable position.
Uh, yeah, but I think I know where Andy's coming from. I mean, yes, and Richard is right. When you look at old churches or cathedrals, domes in Europe, they have all these demons and gargoyles, but they're not there to be worshipped. And I think that is the point here. Is a monument there to be worshipped, or is it just a piece of, I don't know, art or a reminder or whatever? Yeah, but strange. Isn't it strange? I mean, the whole thing, Richard, honestly, Satanism, isn't it actually quite like edgelord behavior, like 4chan edgelord kind of stuff, like, oh God, I hate you, I will worship your enemy. I mean, that's really like cringe and whiny. I don't know, like true Satanism. I think it's super cringe. Like, I mean, all these people, they basically moved on to 4chan, after the invention of the internet. Yeah, it's cringe. I mean, come on.
I wanted to ask a question about guns before we go even more into the religion
Well,
stuff.
you have to comment on the meme in the Jumbotron first.
Oh, what's the meme?
Just go look at it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's funny. All right, so nuance. Let's say your boy AK guy ends up instead of being in the U.S. House of Representatives, let's say he becomes governor of Texas, and he goes insane, and
That's a lot
and
harder.
he passes a mandatory gun buyback in Texas with penalty of felonies. Would you surrender your firearms to the government? And you can't move out of Texas. This is
Well, the thing is, how would I be able to surrender guns that I don't have? So that's the real question.
That's not an option here.
Why is it not an option? I lost them in a tragic boating accident. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they
I
do
don't have
exist.
guns. My trust has
No,
guns. I don't have guns.
It's a tragic boating accident. They don't exist anymore. What am I supposed to do about that?
That is sad. That is tragic.
That's such a cop out.
How
I'm
is that
sorry
cop
for your
out?
loss.
Listen, if you don't have a contingency plan to bury your guns somewhere in the desert and declare them lost in a tragic boating accident, then you're not a real American. So,
Also, always be friends with people
Not
who have machine
everyone lives
shops,
in a
especially
desert.
if they have a Bridgeport.
it doesn't matter any land. Like, listen, if you don't think I've ever buried something before, like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. Like, you have to have buried something before and just like know where it generally is and have plans to dig it up at some point.
Nuance, did you used to be a drug dealer? This is very common behavior around here.
Used to be.
Yeah, it used to be. No, so never illegal drugs and never in any like crazy quantity or anything. I remember when I figured out what kratom was, and then I bought a big bag of it, and then I bought like a little capsule thing that you could like manually make like 20 capsules at a time. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then
Do you take kratom?
No. Not in many years. And there's a difference between the whole plant and the extract versions.
I'm aware.
The extracts, that's for like, I don't know, heroin addicted people or something.
How much of your total net worth is tied up in firearms? How diversified is your portfolio?
Nice try.
Well, it's like I invest in precious metals. I order them online. They show up in different calibers every couple weeks. I stock those up, and I can sell them later.
So here's the thing. Maybe a couple years ago, it was way less. And then after you lose money in certain things, maybe it goes up.
Hard times, guns sell well, and people are usually selling them during a recession. We were supposed to be able to buy a bunch of cool shit during the whole pandemic thing, but they bailed everyone out.
You know, I actually bought an SKS that way. Someone on the gun forum. This is back when I lived in California, and back when California, they still didn't know all the laws that were on the books because they're, Democrat. They don't know gun laws at all. So even though people are like, oh, universal background checks and this and that, like you could still buy a gun in a garage, which is what I did for the SKS, because it was still a curio and relic firearm, which means it's older than 50 years old. And I was able to buy this, I think it was 1954 SKS for like, I don't know, it was like $400, $350 in a garage. And that was cool. But they got rid of that. Now you can't do that either. All the fun stuff's done in California.
Yeah, it seems California sucks. Like, honestly, then you have earthquakes, and then you have the fires, Yeah, it sucks. I'm sorry.
Migrants.
Yeah, and Pamela Anderson is also old, That's our Baywatch is also no option anymore. Yeah, no. I think
I bought
Yeah,
I bought a Walther PPQ with my COVID check, with part of my COVID check.
All right, I have moved on from looking at my current guns to I'm now looking at buying another gun tomorrow.
Oh yeah, what you
Thank
think?
you.
I'd rather buy another watch than a gun.
What do you
Oh,
think?
I'm going to get the watch too, but there's actually an old Ruger, not an old Ruger. It's a Ruger competition shooting pistol that I want to get because it just looks cool. It's
it like
either
a
that or I'm going to
22?
get a Henry repeating arms.
You're not gonna
Is it like a 20? Is it a 22? What is it?
No, it's not 22. Let me hang on. I'll post it down below.
You're not gonna get the hard R.
Oh,
The hard R.
No. Tap for Nerd avoids R's in general.
No.
I've been
By the
looking
way,
at getting.
if you check the Jumbotron, I got a nice care package for Mr. Christopher here. So thank you to him and his organization, National Gun Rights. That was cool. They gotta update the shirt a little bit. So I made that point in the tweet, but otherwise it's still awesome.
Bro, I want
Yeah, well,
I
thank
want
you
a staccato
for
so
posting.
bad. I can't stop thinking about it ever since I shot it.
Do it.
Every day.
Do it.
Same.
I
What
carry
is
the
it
full
like?
size.
What is it
I
like?
carry the full size
$2,000, right?
staccato.
It's
Yeah, I carry the
2,000.
full
Yeah, for
size
like
staccato
a
every
base
day.
model, it's like 2,000.
Yeah, I don't
And
want the
then
base
if you
shit.
want like the XC, if you want the XC and you want to put a holographic sight on it, and then you're looking closer to like $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No thanks. I'm good.
Just get a CZ Parrot or something.
This is quite a bit of gunspurging.
Yeah.
No, Zach is.
Yeah,
Just think of
85-year-old
it like
husband.
a fine watch, Zach. Think of it
Zag,
because it
what
kind of is.
what kind
like
of
a
watch
fine
you want to get, Zag?
Oh,
I
speaking of
mean, I don't really
guns.
want to get into these things, but I don't know. A gun is a much simpler machine than a watch.
Yeah, speaking of gun, nuance.
Get yourself a nice
Oh
Breitling.
yes.
Do you have an American Airlines credit card so that you could travel with your gun without paying for a checked bag every time? Or do you just
I
pay the
don't.
fee?
No, I don't travel with American Airlines. But the
Oh.
airline I do travel with, I don't pay for checked bags anymore.
Oh.
Because I don't have to. I mean, I just check my bag anyway because I'm always basically flying with a firearm. But I don't have to pay.
Yeah,
the
I'm
fee.
spending $30 extra each way because I'm having to check my
Absolutely
fucking
get
bag.
the credit card. You have to get.
Yeah,
the
I'm
credit
going.
card so
I'm
you don't
going
pay
to, but there's
anything.
no good point offers right now.
Sure, there is. What are you talking about?
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. Look at the Citi American cards. There's plenty of good offers. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's still it's not like at its top like offer right now though. It's like
It doesn't
it's like
have
there,
to.
but it's not really good.
What is it like? 60,000, 70?
I think so. Yeah, it's been higher.
That's plenty. Those are American Airlines miles. Those are more useful than like United or whatever.
The best time to do it is when you're actually on a flight, like a decent.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard that.
They'll come out, like, especially if it's like over like 6 hours. They'll come out and they'll do these promos. Like, my wife works for United, so that's what she said. That's always the best
They
time.
do every flight on United.
Yeah, they're really pushy about it.
So nuance. How much? Okay, I have to say, I'm a little bit envious. Like with the gun laws. I have to be honest. I could get a gun here, but I couldn't carry it. That's the problem. Like I have to have a
Hey,
purpose
move
for
to
it.
Czech Republic. It's literally one country south of you, and they have
Yeah.
shall issue concealed carry there. In some respects, Czech Republic has like better gun laws than we do when it comes to like short-barreled rifles. Like you don't have to do all this fancy bullshit for it.
But is it really universal? I'm not sure. But anyway, if I would move to the United States, to Texas, I would buy myself, because you're all talking about buying guns here, Tabs, thank you. I would buy myself a Heckler & Koch USP P8. I think it's a very classic semi-automatic. Yeah. And 9mm Parabellum. Or I think that's not possible, is it? 15 rounds cartridge capacity. I mean, this was the pistol I had when I was in the army, and it's a very, it's like a typical German design. You know, it's like the Mercedes. It's not fancy, but the beauty is the understatement, so to speak. You know what I'm talking about? It's not a Beretta. You know, like yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not flamboyage, you know, like Zegudel. but by the way, when Zegudel said Allahu Akbar, that was so funny. Zegudel, can you repeat that, please?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You said it earlier, Allahu Akbar. That was so cool, man.
He was talking about
the
video game, the jihadi video game.
That'd be insensitive.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, that would be cool. But the Heckler Koch is quite expensive.
Guys are trying to get me killed by the IDF.
No.
H&Ks are pretty pricey here. If you want to buy the civilian MP5, the SP5, like from HK, first of all, it's hard to find them. Secondly, it's running basically $3,000. It's $3,000.
Yeah,
what are you thumbs downing for, Christopher?
No, I'm mad that it's that H&K
that it's so expensive.
Yeah, well, it's so expensive and it's so difficult to get them. It's like, man, we've been requesting to get new ones back and forth, and like we have one full auto MP5, which I love, but getting others is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, I know it's not the same, but I'd probably just go get a Century Arms or something and just pretend it's a real one.
Now, are you guys trying to get one of those SP5s and then converting them to full auto?
I mean, we would like to, but the truth is, like, the wish list for things that we want is like 1,000 things deep. So, I mean, whoever is willing to work with us and give us stuff and not make us jump through hoops, we'll be happy with.
Try to get an FG42.
All right. What's the perfect number of firearms?
$250 million.
What's the perfect number of firearms to own? Not how many you want, but how many to own.
When you
Possibly a shotgun, maybe a rifle, and then 2 handguns.
Do more than you already have.
You're such a FUD. You're basically
at least one 1911.
We posted of Richard up earlier.
Yeah, well, I don't think you can have an assault rifle in the district, sadly.
Don't worry, that's going to change soon.
What do you mean it's going to change? How's it going to change?
The
assault weapons bans are going bye-bye. They're going to go bye-bye.
It's highly unlikely that the deep state's coming for anyone, and if they do, they'll go Waco on you, so your guns don't make much of a difference.
They make a difference.
Only as much as how badly you want your family to get fucked if you take out federal officers.
Listen, if they know,
if it's gotten to that point, it's over.
That's stupid. Look at the point it got to in Afghanistan and Vietnam and all these other places where like the biggest countries in the world, like the Soviet Union or the United States, tried to get into, and they lost to peasants with AKs and shit.
They already
wasn't quite that simple.
What's that?
Said it wasn't quite that simple. The peasants with AKs don't really damage like tank armor. It's more so that like the acts of terror and U.S. weapons were more of an untenable situation.
It's just a war of attrition at some point. I mean, there's numbers. I mean, you've got, I don't know, there's maybe 25 million ARs in circulation here and 400 million different guns.
Probably more, honestly. But
yeah, probably.
Right, but like an AR can't penetrate most.
It doesn't have to. If they're coming, they're not.
If they drive into your house with an armored personnel carrier,
they can't arrest you with an APC.
Guns don't.
They can't arrest you with an
against the military or federal police. because
It's
they can
gonna be
set up an FPV drone with an explosive device on it and fly it through your window, all through your home, like they do in the Ukraine. And then what are you going to do, man? Like, fly one down your chimney, blow it up. Like,
Well,
it's just
go tell that to the Taliban.
That's
Go tell that to
nuance,
the.
nuance,
well, the
nuance, bro. That's
Taliban. I
called
mean, the
that's
Taliban
called
got
the
their
Santa
ass
Claus
raped by
maneuver.
U.S.
The
military.
Santa Claus maneuver. You know when the drone is flying above
Like, I
the
love
chimney
guns, but
and
it's
is
futile to fight
dropping the
the U.S.
grenade
government, man. I'm
down
not
the
one of those
chimney.
people.
That is called the Santa Claus maneuver. You know, the Santa Claus maneuver.
Yeah,
Just saying.
They're
sure.
gonna
Like
knock on most.
they could kill all of you at some point, sure, whatever. But if you have an armed populace, it does make the government like think twice before doing like super crazy shit.
Oh, I
To
agree
pretend
with
otherwise,
It
that to an
absolutely
extent.
does, and that's why they're going to know your activity. They already have their home map. So for most Americans, they're going to show up at a time when they know you're sleeping. Most Americans have sleep apnea. They're not waking up to anyone outside. There's going to be a heavy display of force. They're going to bring you out of your home knowing everything that's already mapped inside of it and where everything's at. And they're going to put you in cuffs. They're going to go. You're going to hand over your guns because your kids are screaming and you hate them and your wife and you just want to get it over with. But
yeah,
there
when
will
is
be a
this
couple of
happening?
sheepdogs
When is
left
this
over.
happening?
Oh, I'm just saying it's capable. If it's never going to happen.
Oh,
Americans are never
okay.
going to rise up against their government. The government has to never crack down on Americans because Americans are too lazy.
What do you mean never
On
rise
that
up?
note,
They've
can
literally done
everybody
it
look to the
before.
Jumbotron,
They've
please?
literally done it before.
Okay, I'm to
How
the
many?
exaggeration. I'm thinking,
Is this
nah.
an Obama production, Miss
No,
G?
this is
No,
like
I don't think
20th
so.
century. It happened a bunch of times in the
You would think
20th
so,
century.
huh?
Miss G, I
What are
just
you
got a new
talking
Michael Kors purse. You want to see it?
Yeah, send me.
about? No.
To be clear, if I'm not denying that one, the government kills people either through direct action or through biological.
Look, let's use a simple case. The DC sniper. Those two guys basically shut down a tri-state area for how many weeks? And that was two guys engaged in like terrorism or whatever. If even like 0.001% of Americans decided to like go crazy or something, like that would be absolute bedlam. Like to pretend like it would be an easy thing to control is absurd.
Be shut down in less than 72 hours.
Yeah,
You'd
that's
lose a lot of law enforcement. You'd lose
delusional.
a lot of federal employees, but it'd be done pretty easily.
That's delusional.
Okay.
Not to mention one other thing, like
We have a
military forces
50%
can jam your
clearance rate.
communication signals.
We have a
so you can't
50%
talk.
clearance rate on homicides. In some cities, like much lower. So you're telling me when like a decent chunk, like sizable portion of gun owners, if they decided to do something like that, it'd be shut down in 72 hours? That's delusional.
Yes. Because you're talking about something that's organized at scale. You think that people are going to be able to organize that amount of activity across the nation, disrupt, and not get that intercepted and disrupted?
It doesn't have to be. It could be like Antifa style. It doesn't have to be organized.
Well, I mean, Antifa.
Every communication, whether electronic or not, is recorded, except for a couple areas in the United States. Maybe the net was it NRZQ, but no, everything else is recorded. I don't see how you get around that.
I personally don't care one way or the other about whether we win or lose. But if the question comes down to would I rather have it than not, I'd rather have it. So
oh hell yeah! Plus they're cool.
Yeah, I'm not going out like with my hands empty. It's not happening.
When the government knocks on my door, I'm handing it over. I like life.
Okay,
Hannah.
Okay, well, did you ever? I mean, you've seen the Bundy Ranch situation, right? Like, who won there, basically?
Yeah, but that's different technology.
How is it different? What are you talking about?
Now.
What?
Everything that's in my home, they know about. They have every.
How is it different? That was literally like how many? Like a few years ago. That wasn't like that ancient history. Like I saw that whole thing happen on YouTube.
Hannah, if the government was to remove the Second Amendment, do you think that we as Christians have like a mandate under Romans 13 to comply with that?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, well, I would maybe know. I don't know. Does the government have the right to remove your right to self-protection?
Is it glitched? Is anyone speaking?
Can y'all hear me?
Speaking.
Oh no, we gotta Andy, I'll bring you back up. You can't hear Hannah.
Yeah, the FBI is listening in. Honestly, this talk about uprising.
Probably.
Guys,
No,
we should
believe me, I don't like
careful here.
I don't like the uprising talk. Like it gets like into territory of Fed posting. I don't like it because none of this is you should or shouldn't or whatever. This is talking about logistical reality. But yeah, that's it's.
Can we
all,
talk about like more fun stuff? Like, okay,
like
an
what?
85-year-old man killed his 81-year-old wife in DC because he didn't like the pancakes that she made.
All right, fun stuff.
That's not fun.
He doesn't get enough credit for not killing her before that. He made it a long time.
Oh my God.
Well, you know what they say, marriages are like pancakes. If the first one doesn't work out, you just fucking kill her.
Jesus Christ! Please stop.
Disavow.
Disavow.
I didn't get to hear your answer, Hannah. What did you hear my
Who
question?
even said that? Was that Tap or Sam? Who was?
No, that wasn't me for
That's
once.
just not funny, guys. It's just, yeah.
Andy, I said I'm not sure, and then I said, does the government have the right to remove your ability to protect yourself? I would say probably not off the top of my head.
Okay, now
Yeah, I don't know.
a serious question, not so dark. Because this is interesting. So in Germany, the police has the right for random controls. Like they can stop your car and just look around. Okay, everything fine. Okay, move on. Is this possible in the United States or is this forbidden?
It's generally forbidden, but there are exceptions.
Are they putting? I heard a conspiracy they're putting kill switches in cars. Is that true?
So that's Thomas Massey is the one who's been kind of pushing back against that. I think he had introduced the amendment to get rid of so-called kill switches, but it's not like, okay, police are chasing your car and then they access the kill switch and turn it off. The idea behind this is, oh, if you're engaged in reckless driving with like the newer technology, the car is able to tell if you're like drunk driving or reckless driving and shut the car off or something like that, which that's still a concern to me. I don't like that. And I don't think it should be.
If your car has OnStar, doesn't it already have a kill switch?
Yes.
Any car that has an LTE connection can be messed with and send you into a tree.
What was that journalist that the family claiming that someone hacked into it?
Yeah, Michael something. What was his name? Fuck, it had like an H in the last name, I think.
I can't remember. It was like 2 or 3 days after he basically warned that he was
Hastings, Michael Hastings, right?
Yeah, is it right? Let me check.
Yep, it's Michael Hastings. That's right. June 18, 2013.
That shit was wild.
The tire pressure monitor sensors on each of your wheels are usually Bluetooth to your car, and they actually there was like I can't remember who exactly it was. I think they used that same technique to find Ghislaine Maxwell, but they flew a plane over her vehicle and picked up those sensors.
Yeah,
so
there's
did the same thing with the Austin bomber.
I'm still gonna get a Cybertruck though.
Hell yeah! There you go.
I'm gonna enjoy that crash.
Well, you'll be unharmed. You'll just kill like a dozen pedestrians due to this massively heavy car.
Exactly.
Although,
right.
also, I'm not even sure that joke lands because it's like the crumple zone that the Cybertruck is missing.
No, there's a crumple zone. It's not a lot, but there's a crumple zone.
Okay. But it is weird that Nuance, you're obsessed with the stuff like much more than I am, but then you're the one also doing like self-driving on a Tesla, which seems like that would be easily hacked by someone.
I don't know about easily. I mean, obviously Tesla does things to, mitigate that sort of stuff, and I'm not really concerned about it.
Nuance is going to root his Tesla truck and upload it.
I'm on Team Elon. I trust. In Elon we trust.
They're doing more nefarious stuff to Nuance right now. Like he sets it to 69 degrees and it's actually 68. Sometimes he turns the volume to an even number and they'll drop it down to an odd.
Oh, I hate that. I always put it on even numbers or like a 0 or a 5. Never like a 3 or a 9 or a 7.
Yeah, because we're cultured.
Andy, you're really causing some trouble here with your poll.
I don't know what it is about today. There's something in the air.
I think it's shit.
Oh, I'm winning. That's cool. The real question is taste in what? Or we're just saying taste overall in general? Can you even quantify that?
Well, I think it was ambiguous when Richard said he has more taste than you.
Yeah, it's like don't take taste is something that you shouldn't even have to talk about. Don't send out a Christmas card with your wife and 8-year-old holding assault rifles. Like it's not.
I love the Massey Christmas cards.
No.
I love the Massey Christmas cards.
No. It's just insulting. And it's dumb and weird. There's this male fantasy of like, you know, the intruder, he's going to get my family and I'll be there to like go Liam Neeson on his ass and whatever. I mean, I get it, and maybe it is masculine on some level, but
Every
it's just
Harrison
kind
Ford
of stupid. It's just stupid.
We all want to protect, and it's fucking awesome.
Well,
yeah,
but even the protection, like I find that, like when I was a kid, I never fantasized, or now when I'm a man, I don't fantasize about protection. I fantasize of like joining Napoleon's army and marching across Europe. Like I fantasize about aggression. So that's cool. Like this protection,
I got back issues,
like
man, so I'm not marching across shit.
The
so
NAP, I could actualize the non-aggression principle.
No, but hold on.
That's
the
so.
principle,
Once again,
testosterone measuring
whether it's
contest.
offensive or defensive, the principles are still kind of the same. This idea
No, they're not.
in the movies that hold on, let me make my case at least before you start.
Fair enough.
The idea of reinforcing this sort of like masculine spirit of like fighting the other man for what's yours and what's right, and you know, defending your home or like your family.
I'm talking about
like,
taking what's his. That's cool.
But even
defending,
in that case,
that's gay.
At the end of the day, you're doing that for, you know, not just for the sake of taking. There's a greater purpose, whether it's you know, because you love your people, you love your family, like you want to expand or you want to ensure safety, stability. Like those things are also tied in with the story of protecting your family, doing whatever it takes, killing every man to get to, like the Liam Neeson movie. It's the same type of principle.
Did
Nowadays,
anyone join?
We have these stupid movies that are like woman superhero who's even more powerful than all the dudes, and it's just ridiculous.
I get that. But I guess my
What
point
does that have
was
to do
like,
with Christmas cards, though? Like the Christmas cards are kind of cringe.
It's totally cringe. You're going to shoot people who come to drink eggnog or something?
I like nuance. I
embrace the cringe. It is cringe to be cringed out by that.
Dear nuance, I respect you very much, but a picture, a family picture with the guns as a Christmas card.
You're European.
This goes.
I know. It's so foreign. You guys don't.
But it goes against the Christmas spirit. I mean, come on.
No, it doesn't. You get gifts, and some of those gifts are guns, and they're awesome.
This is these levels of gun fetishism on Nuance, bro. I'm concerned.
Good. Be concerned.
I mean, I will say that if you did a Christmas card featuring any other gifts, that would be considered in poor taste. I've never received a Christmas card with the children posing with like their new Xbox or something.
Yeah, I agree. That's also cringe.
Well, every year my family sends me a picture and there's just a dead tree in the background. That's fucked up. And they decorate it.
Don't
you know
be
what
sad,
else is
Tap.
cringe?
Don't be sad.
Those videos of like that parents do where they dress up like the Grinch and steal the kids' like presents, and the kids are like crying and stuff. Now, I bet that doesn't happen in a gun family though, because those kids would be ready.
Because those kids would shoot their parents.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
No, like they get their revenge years later when it's time for the nursing home. Like, oh, you're gonna go in the other one with the pores.
Yeah, remember that Christmas that you traumatized me by making me believe the Grinch was stealing my presents? Well, here's your new nursing home where all the nurses are on food stamps.
And you're probably not going to get the right meds.
I bet they're the same people that pretend they eat their kids' candy on Halloween as well.
Oh, I don't pretend about that. I actually do eat their candy.
So they watch Kimmel, is what you're saying.
If you don't push the dad tax, then you don't have kids. You have to do the dad tax for everything.
That's for sure. Tony's been having to
I think
work out
there's
extra.
something cruel. There's something cruel about the elf on the shelf thing too, with like parents trolling their kids.
Creepy. Yeah, it's creepy. I don't like it.
I do not want to be a slave to the chore of nightly creativity around the holidays.
It's so manipulative, though. It's like, oh, you better behave. The elf is going to go report to Santa. Like, couldn't you just like teach your kids how to behave? That might be better.
I've been trying, but my kids are assholes. I'm on my last fucking resort here. If you want to
They
come over and
can
beat
be
the
that
shit
way
out of them,
sometimes. We don't beat our children, but
Tap,
we do put them in jail, figuratively.
tap.
And
Are you
literally
trying to say
sometimes.
the apple didn't fall far from the tree?
goddamn, Miss G, you're right. To be clear, I don't have kids,
Miss
and
G,
if I did, I
if you're
wouldn't beat
fucking
them.
with Hannah, I'm getting on a plane and I'm coming over there.
Listen, I want to know about this 50-year-old woman in Vegas.
Listen,
You didn't see my comment?
I don't think women understand how, like, because let's say a man comes up to a woman, compliments her, she gets that all the time. They forget about that in 2 seconds, whatever, typically. Not always, but typically. For a guy, it seems like nothing. We'll brush it off, in your face. Oh, it's whatever. For weeks, we will be like, that 50-year-old woman at the blackjack table said I had a nice smile. Oh my God, I feel so good about myself.
A girl,
We're kind of pathetic like that. That's just kind of how it
Did
is.
you not
We never
see
get
my
complimented on
reply,
anything.
though? Did you not check it out? Come on, I give you compliments
Check
every
what
night, and
out?
I'm over 50.
Check what out?
I left you a reply on that post.
Oh,
look,
yeah. But it's a bit
kind of funny.
in person versus online. Online, people can type whatever, they can say whatever in spaces, but in person, it just hits different,
In 2005, a girl told me that I did a good job plucking my eyebrows, and every time I pluck my eyebrows, I think about her and I go, I'm doing this.
See?
If a woman simply meets eye contact, like as I'm checking out at the store, or tells me to have a good day, I'm elated for weeks. My confidence is up. I start working out more. I start telling my wife she needs to keep me around. Like, it matters.
Women have no idea. They have no idea.
If I make eyes with somebody tacitly for a moment, my brain in a span of 10 seconds imagines an entire relationship and children.
It's the scene. It's like the alternate reality in La La Land at the end. Like what could have been.
So basically, you're just laying it out here, gentlemen, that you need your ego stroked.
No, we're just so used to being shitty to each other that when someone's nice, it's like, oh my God.
It just never happens. That's the thing. We're so not used to it.
But you do have a wonderful smile, my buddy.
It just doesn't hit the same. It just doesn't hit the same. But I appreciate it.
You know I love you. I love you too, Zag.
All right, this is getting really gay. Can we go back to the
Now
guns?
you
A little
just
cringe. This is all a little cringe.
Listen, the love is not unlimited. You just spread that love. You just cut the love by 50% by spreading it to Zag.
I'm sorry, but you two are two of my favorites. So
A little
I cannot say it.
And listen, it's not territorial. It's just a fact. The love is not unlimited. It's a precious, limited resource. And by spreading it to another person, immediately cut it by half. That's how it works.
I never took you for a jealous guy.
No, it's not jealous. It's just the facts. It is what it is.
Yeah, and you can't.
Are you implying that I love my children less than if I had less of them?
Hannah, you have the same amount of love.
Yes, he
but
is.
the more, hold on,
No.
you have the same amount of love. But every child you add to that, you just have to spread it amongst the same amount of kids. That's just how it works.
Disavow.
That's how
So
it works.
divide the number of kids you have.
You love
by
them
100,
equally, but
and
it's
that's the
spread
percentage
out.
that you love them.
That's Nuance Bro's
Nah.
worst take ever.
It's like guacamole. You have a gram of it, and you got to spread it all over the sandwich.
This
Look,
is
you know, some are
crazy.
going to go to
Crazy
prison, and
talk.
some will help you out when you're old, and that's the one you love more.
I'll
They've
shower
all,
you
most
some
of them have
more.
already
Don't
been to
worry.
prison. They're good. They're not going again.
We only have a capacity for a certain amount of human relationships at any one time. This is a fact. Like you can only remember. That's just true. We're not designed to have equally loving and important relationships with 10,000 people. That's not possible.
Okay, but we're
There's
talking
not
about 2 people,
10,000.
not 10,000.
Well, there's not 10,000 of them. I only have 14.
So clearly, it's a limited resource. It's not
she's not an
unlimited
insect.
in its capacity. That's all I'm saying.
Wait, do you
my
do you not
God,
love all your
Zach.
firearms equally? They're kind of like your children.
No, I don't love my
I have
firearms
favorites.
equally. Are you kidding me? I have favorites. Absolutely. When I built my AK with my hand. I had blisters and blood produced from making that
Oh,
thing
so that's the
over
biological
days.
child versus the adopted children. I got
Exactly. Well, I don't know about that, but it, like when I just bought this like $200 thing off the dude who barely spoke any English, and I put it on camera, like that one's not as important to me as the AK I built with my hands.
There's some I inherited, and there's some I bought from family members of others that basically they passed away. It was someone I worked for. Those mean way more to me than something I built myself or bought off the shelf.
I want to see Nuance when he has children and when he gets his third kid, and then he has like that Grinch moment where his heart grows 3 sizes, and he goes, "Oh, I was wrong this whole time."
But even if it grew 3 sizes, wouldn't it still be splitting it around?
Yeah.
Don't think about it too hard. Just feel good.
Yeah, it broke my brain.
How about this? There's a point of diminishing returns. It can grow, but there's a point of diminishing returns.
You just ruined all the love I have for you. You're just shitting all
That's
over
fine.
it.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Okay, to be fair though,
more love for Zag.
I don't know if there's limited amounts. I think you water it down if you use it the wrong way. Like my wife really likes compliments, but I only give her one like every 2 or 3 days, because if I give it to her every single day, it means nothing. And so she's like, I feel like I need a compliment.
It's true.
You got to wait till Friday.
I've had
baby.
people tell me
This is
compliments mean more
nonsense.
from me because I don't give them out that often.
It's okay, Hannah. In like 5 years, Nuance is gonna be married, starting a family, on the way to having 15 children, and he's gonna be post-millennial.
Wait, hold on.
So true.
In 5 years, I'm going to have 15 children. So if I'm
On
doing
the
No, in
way
5
to
years, you're
having
going to
15
start the
children.
process of having 15 children.
So 50. If you can do 9 months, 15. So my exactly 18-year-old wife is going to have it.
Yeah, I don't see a downside.
She could be an up-and-coming e-girl.
I wish I had actually started having kids earlier. I waited till I was in my 30s, and now I'm old, and I'm like, dude, I should have done this when I was 18. Easy.
I mean, really, you could have 10,000 kids if you wanted to, but
We're
women
mid-30s. We're
women
working on
can't
it
do
now.
that. You could go Genghis Khan mode.
Yeah, we're mid-30s.
Well, you
working on it now. I would
can. You
say
just
to
have
anyone
to
else,
get them
get
from other
started.
people.
No, you don't have to get them from other people.
I'm saying women can. We just,
Oh,
you know.
well, yeah, I'm talking about biological.
Yeah, biologically, no.
Yeah.
There's
I'm
always
still pushing for
human
25.
trafficking
But
with the surrogacy.
25?
yeah. I know that's what
25
Carl
what?
says
Wait,
too
so
every time I bring it up.
Do you picture yourself at like 72 having like an infant?
No, I think baby Daniel is the only infant that we'll ever be able to have.
Well, I'm saying like maybe like is there a certain cutoff age where you would consider like okay, no more adopting because I'm old?
Yeah, we've actually talked about this a lot because we have the baby now. Like, we already were going to put off bringing in more kids because my daughters are at an age now where it may not be the best idea. And so we were already going to put it off until they were kind of like settled into adulthood. And then with the baby, I mean, it would have to be children that are younger than him. That generally bodes better for mixed families. So it's possible that we won't take any more at all because we'll be too old by the time it would be a good idea. But I would say probably 50 or 55. I mean, because if I'm 50 or 55, like Tony's 7 years older than me, so he would be in his 60s or close to, and so I mean, I would say 50 or 55.
For those that did have,
Hey, I've got to go. I'll be back in a little bit. Zag, I'm running that errand that I told you about earlier.
Bye, Caroline.
Now I have to text her and ask what this errand is.
Yeah, she tells Zag, but not you. Wow, traitor.
Does she love Zag more than Hannah? Did she split her love?
Probably.
Maybe she probably loves Hannah more, but perhaps she likes me more.
so we're working on it right now, but I'll tell you,
I'm
I don't mind.
unconcerned.
I don't mind saying that. I do have a concern, like being in mid-30s, 18 years plus that, if it's kind of reckless to bring a child in and then you croak. Well, that's what life insurance is for. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, at some point,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, I have
Yeah.
that their parents died when they were 40 and got hit by a bus. You know, that's how life works.
Now, you don't tell them about the life insurance because you don't want to give them any incentives to kill you.
It's a little
Especially
different
when
when
we're
you're
breaking out the
having
guns
them,
for the
though.
Christmas cards.
Like,
Oh, what
especially
the hell?
if you have a Latina girlfriend, like you especially don't want to tell her.
Whenever I joke about it, my wife tells me that I have more potential staying alive to make more income than the life insurance. And it kind of makes sense, but I'm also like, let me die. Stop being selfish.
If I can last to the point where they get through, like, I don't know, 25 or something, 26, and they have a, fully formed brain, a decent personality, then I'll be okay kicking the bucket. But before then, yeah, I don't want to die.
I'm just going to leave him to Zag.
Leave him to Nuance.
Oh, God, no. No offense, man.
So, Richard, I saw your post on the Overlook Hotel today. Hilarious. Just hilarious. The White House Christmas party or Christmas theme. It was reminiscent of something from The Shining, wasn't it?
Sorry, I'm lifting some weights here. I'll just walk over here. Yeah, I actually cranked out that video in like 5 minutes. It might have. I was just, once I posted it, I was thinking like I could have done it better, of like integrating scenes from The Shining. Yeah, that thing. I mean, I don't go in for all the Biden hatred, or that video was so bizarre. The dancing was so untalented and uninteresting. Or, I've seen high schoolers do stuff like that. And the fact that they got invited to the White House, and then they literally have a tracking shot, like a Kubrick-esque tracking shot. And then they have these people in animal mask, and it's about the Nutcracker. I mean, it was just, that was truly creepy stuff. I just had
but
to
if
put
white
the
people did it, then it would have been the best thing ever since sliced bread.
No. I mean, white people.
That would be like,
white
I
people would
love
have done
the
it
tracking
better.
shot where it got the white dancers. It was very Kubrick-esque. It was so brilliant.
No, I see your point, but no. What were they thinking?
All I could think about was that one dude who in off of like stage left. He's so unprepared. He doesn't start dancing until he's already in the shot. I'm like, dude, just restart that shot, dude. This looks like trash. I hated that.
I mean, I just, it must be a friend of a friend or something going on. But just the people who are her staff, like, why would you release that? It was, even with the music that they had, it was creepy. And then when I put in Shining music, it was creepy as hell.
And what about the dog costume too? That's very strange.
There was a dog costume, or you're talking about the actual Shining?
No. In the White House thing towards the end, there's the guy, how the military guys that wear those anonymous like dog masks with like the ball gags and stuff. There was one of those at the end.
It's just heinous.
It's just, who's organizing these things? They really need to be fired immediately.
Somebody posted, and I didn't verify, but somebody posted that it was like the dance troupe was like an all POC LGBTQ sort of dance troupe, and that was the reason they got, and that was the main reason for getting invited. And as soon as someone said it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
It makes sense.
I read that too.
Totally pathetic. I mean, you're the president. You should have like the New York City Ballet, performing the Nutcracker or something. Like, you should have the best. Like, this idea of like reaching down to some, Williamsburg group that does, and they're not even doing like interesting avant-garde dance. It's just dumb. Like, it's high school.
I mean, this is the same White House that invited like the tranny who had like showed the boobs off on the White House lawn. So this is not very.
Well, that was but that was. Okay, that was kind of forgivable. They were just doing the stupid, pride stuff, and she did it. I mean, that's a long-term thing. I mean, I don't think you could blame Joe Biden for that.
Yes, you can.
Well, I mean, yeah, all of these things that you guys rage against, these were like getting more and more intense under Trump. I mean, I guess what you would say is that they weren't sanctioned by the White House itself or something.
I don't like the idea that someone would think it's okay to do that at the White House. I think that's more so encouraged by a Biden type presidency. I don't think anyone would think to do that under a Trump presidency. No one would think that's okay to do.
They'd be terrified of, his supporters chopping their heads off or something.
No, it's
Maybe.
just like it's kind of like a respect for the office thing. Like, there's decorum, but under Biden, it's like, oh, all this LGBT degeneracy stuff is all acceptable, mainstream in the Democrat Party in 2023. That's totally fine to do, even at the White House.
I
get that.
I'm actually kind of thankful for Biden in a weird way, because he's glorifying God through being a judgment upon America. Like, he's demonstrating God's attributes of wrath and justice.
Yeah, you're just an accelerationist. That's what you are.
Well, I think you're
not.
missing the whole. I think you're missing the whole point of Biden. I mean, Biden, no doubt, like, tolerates this stuff, but the whole point of why he was elected was like back to normalcy. He's this old dude from the 1970s. I mean, it could be a lot worse. It could be infinitely worse. I mean, this guy's a reactionary in many ways.
Yeah,
or not even a reactionary.
I think it definitely
it
definitely could be a lot worse. I think the reason it isn't is common grace or prevenient grace. It's demonstrating God's attribute of mercy also.
Yeah.
I think smarter is just doing things a little bit at a time. I mean, it's not like all of our enemies are dead. You know what I mean? Like, you cook a frog, so doing it too much at once is just bad strategy.
But I understand the boiling the frog kind of analogy, but if they do too much, like, if they have a full-on millennial in power moment, this is maybe one of the reasons why I think 2024 is the last election, because things are just so intense. But if they have like actual millennial leadership or something, I think that will be kind of the end, because then there won't even be like a pretense of, some sort of reactionary decorum or something that Biden represents.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think there's a bit of a swing happening within the younger generation. I mean, like kids like my sister's age, where they see some of that stuff, like the, millennial or the Gen Z, like influencers going to the White House. They're like, these are the weirdest people. We're not fans of this. I think it's a very weird niche. It's going to go away, hopefully.
Richard, do you think that the 2024 election will be a referendum on Biden or a referendum on Trump or whoever the candidate is?
I think someone saying a referendum on Biden, I'm not sure I buy that, because things have really not been that bad. And I think people, when they get really intense about the situation and they blame Joe Biden, I think they're rationalizing. Like, I think America is already insane and intensely polarized and on the edge, and they're just scapegoating this man who's, literally your grandfather's Democratic Party. So I think things are just, they have been ramped up to an intensity that just cannot be dialed back at this point. Even the chopping the head off the Satanist statue. I mean, you guys might chuckle like based or whatever, but that is a pretty intense act. I mean, it goes in line with people going to the FBI headquarters with guns after Trump's house got raided, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think people are very intense at this point.
It's not that close. Like, going to FBI headquarters with guns is different than like taking a kind of like paper mache like display at a state house or something. I don't know.
I think, yeah, they're going to be prosecuted differently, but what I'm saying is that there's just an intensity, a desire to act out, a desire to kind of forget about tomorrow. We need to do this now, that I think will play out.
I think the referendum isn't on Biden or Trump. It's on one half of the country or the other. I mean, I think to Richard's point too, things are very, very polarized, and the animosity towards one type of the country versus the other. I mean, everyone saw the memes today, right, of the Civil War thing, and everyone was saying, "What kind of American are you?" Like, it's in the zeitgeist. We're all feeling it. So that's where I think the referendum is.
I'm going to lift a few more weights. I'll just listen.
A ceasefire in the eastern Congo has been extended by 2 weeks. You hear about this? Their elections are in 6 days, I think, or whatever.
I haven't followed any of that. What's the background?
So it's this country in Africa, and there's a lot of violence there.
Thanks.
It's like the other country in Africa with a lot of violence there, but it's just a bit different.
Someone tried to get me to go do a campaign in Nigeria, and I was like,
Why? What's wrong with Nigeria? Is it because there's too many black people there for you?
Disavow.
I mean, give me your reasons why you said no to Nigeria.
No, partially as I've just been doing campaign stuff overseas for a while, and I was kind of burnt out. But the other part of it too is
okay.
Well, hold on. A buddy of mine who was over there too was saying, like, it's not the greatest time. It's a little dangerous. And my brother had just gotten back from doing a stint in Haiti, and he's like, "Yeah, man, go to places that where they've got a lot of like war torn stuff and going on." It's like,
wait, Haiti? What that has something in common, even though it's a different like continent.
What? That it's war torn?
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to put my finger on it, but I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Nigeria was also one of the countries with one of the largest Ebola outbreaks, so I'm always paranoid about Ebola.
Well, it's just one of the largest population-wise countries in Africa. It might be the largest, right? Is it?
I'm trying to look it up.
For what? For
population. Largest population.
Oh, Nigeria, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, isn't it?
Yeah, Egypt may
It
be
is
a close
Nigeria.
second.
Yep.
Ethiopia maybe is quite up there too.
No, Ethiopia is second with 115 million. Nigeria
then
is
Egypt.
at 223 million.
What's Egypt, like 110?
Yeah, Nigeria has 223 million, followed by Ethiopia with 126, and then Egypt with 111.
There you go.
Nigeria is supposed to pass the U.S. by 2050, I believe. And the crazy thing about Nigeria is if you add up the population of like every other West African country, from like Senegal down to Cameroon, it's, I think, still less than what Nigeria has.
I think I read somewhere that every country in Africa could pay off their national debt in less than 1 year. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but that's kind of crazy.
Well, it's possible. I mean, the China pays for everything.
Certainly the case in
China
Africa.
number one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
should
how
we
about them
promote
lithium
Chinese
mines?
investments? What we meant to believe last night, I guess.
Nigeria's total GDP is 1.365 trillion. Their per capita GDP is 6,147.
That's almost double the Ukraine's.
Ukraine is winning.
We should have had Nigeria pay for this war.
The Nigerians are having some problems there, aren't they? Politically speaking, I remember the Nigerian spaces used to be massive on this app at a certain time. I haven't seen them though. Did they have that election finally? Did that guy who's always appearing? Did
This
he
is
win?
where you need Wayward on stage.
Kosovo. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. That's the problem. Like, no one really knows what's going on in Africa unless you're an African autist or something. It doesn't really hit the main geopolitical headlines too often. You got to bury through like the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times World section to find anything about Africa.
I saw a video a few months ago of the Nigerian army performing a paratrooper drop, and it was a bit of a disaster, to put it mildly.
Oh, I'm sure. Similar to the Saudis trying to pull those things off. Also, always a debacle, you know.
I went to Amen to teach their guys how to jump out of airplanes, and they used to do cartwheels and like trip and fall off the ledge of the airplane.
Wait,
and get
are you talking about Jordan or the country Oman?
Oman.
I'm going to start calling it that.
So what? Wait, is it? Or wait, which one is it? Oman, the country, or Amman, Jordan?
Amman, Jordan.
Okay, got it.
But they would all like do cartwheels and like trip and fall out, like not intentionally do cartwheels. They just weren't balanced, and their pilots weren't steady at the wheel.
Reminds me of that footage of the Afghan army where they're like doing the jumping jacks. And they couldn't do the jumping jacks.
They could do that monkey bars pretty good though.
Oh yeah.
No, that was the Taliban. They could do that shit.
Yeah, I wonder what the Taliban's occupying their time with now that there's no opium to whack down off the branch.
So much time for activities now that the U.S. has left.
So much time.
I
Have you
remember
seen
when
them rollerblading?
Have the stonings picked up there?
I don't know about that, but I know that like when they originally did that whole like the takeover of Kabul, this guy I know did an edit where he took all the funny footage of them like, you know, playing the AK like a guitar in the bumper cars or on the trampoline, and it was like the boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. It was the funniest edit. It looked so wholesome and fun. It was great.
There's a video right now of them like rolling around Kabul on rollerblades, and they're like getting pulled, but like along the
Oh
side of
yeah,
the
the
cars.
cars. They're holding on to the cars. I've seen that. Yeah.
I
We
just,
used
I
to
just,
do. We used to do spaces with the Taliban. They would come in here, and we would like ask them questions and stuff. And we got them to give dating advice to Tryman.
Oh no. I just searched up on Google News. I searched up Taliban, and this article seems interesting. The Taliban are sending women to jail to save them from gender-based violence.
My favorite was the one talking about how the Taliban is bored of working in an office now and missed the insurgency.
I bet that's not an easy transition. Like, imagine living in caves and fighting in the mountains on a regular basis, and just with your AK, and now you're like paper pushing in an office.
Staring at
I mean, that's kind of what our troops go through, right? They get out of the army and they don't know what to do. I guess it's the same for the Taliban too.
They were like
probably to a more extreme degree.
I saw a number
I
of.
bet a lot of those Afghan veterans started T-shirt companies.
What if you're one of like the next people assigned to be a suicide bomber, and then the takeover ceases and you have to go push pencils or something? That'd be really weird.
Then you're like, at first I was afraid, but now suicide doesn't sound so bad.
Oh,
a lot of those Taliban guys in summer of 2021, they were in Kabul for like the first times in their lives, and you got to wonder if some of them, went back home, or if some of them are trying to adapt to the city life, stayed there. But it was very interesting. I remember seeing footage when that was all going down, and they were interviewing guys, and they were like, "Yeah, beautiful part of the country, nice city, never been here before."
Yeah, it's wild to think, like, sometimes like I think of the people in the West Bank, and like people who grew up there, and they're like, yeah, I've never seen the Mediterranean Sea. And it's like, dude, it's like a few miles that way, but they're not allowed to go.
Yeah, that's crazy. And if you live in Gaza, I mean, like, what's the most like elevation you've never seen, like a hill? I'd be curious, like, what is the highest elevation in Gaza?
One of the high rises, probably.
Well, I mean, besides that, like,
yeah, that's
like
a good
30,
question.
like
It's very
35
coastal.
feet above sea level. I don't know.
10, 20 meters. I don't know. It's very coastal. It's a desert to begin with.
The pile of rubble that you get buried under is probably the correct answer.
Yeah.
Oof.
Unfortunately, yeah, you might be right.
91 meters, I think, is what Google is telling me.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. I think after a certain point, this discussion about Israel-Palestine becomes fruitless, unless there's some major updates. But if the updates, there were more bombings today. Well, geez, I mean,
no, the updates are those Hamas videos with the red triangles where they're like, you see this tank right in front of your face? Look,
yeah, yeah, people are like, there's no damage that's done to the tank. Well, yes, there is damage done to the tank. It's not necessarily an armor-piercing round. It doesn't like blow the whole tank up, but it does pretty bad damage to the tank. Any sort of external systems the tank has are damaged. The tank probably has to be brought in after a couple of hits.
Yeah,
How effective are those trophy systems?
For those. That's my
They're not
question
bad.
with these RPGs. Like, how many people in the tank typically die from those RPGs? Is it always zero? Like, what's the deal?
More likely to get like a TPI.
It depends, because there have actually been a handful of those videos, maybe more, where there's a guy like on an external, like popped up on an external turret, And like these guys are supposedly sneaking up on the tanks. Now, like I'm quite sure if you're in the military, you expect someone could sneak up on you at any moment, and that's why you have protocols and all these things. But it feels like a bunch of them have been hit blindsided, like from point blank range. And if that happens, there's no way it doesn't do some damage or kill some people. Like the initial blast shock, like I'm not like the tank's not immobilized, but it's damaged. And so people that say otherwise are a little disingenuous. Now, if it was like an ATGM, the whole thing would explode almost.
Think about when you're at a concert in front of a large speaker, the concussion, the force that's going through you. Now think about sitting in a large metal vehicle, and it does absorb some of the impact, but you, the meat bag inside of there, are still going to have issues. Whether it's TBI, you could get ruptured vessels, that sort of thing. There's a lot of bad stuff that can still happen.
Could go deaf.
Yeah. Yep. And the other thing is normally, and not my place to say it, but you would want infantry as well around the tanks that are helping to prevent that stuff from happening. But if you're going through and consistently moving and you don't have infantry around to protect the tankers, then you're fucked.
Yeah, and also you see a lot of supplies starting to trickle in, and if you want to escalate this thing and you're an adversarial power, you start sending in slowly small shipments of the ATGMs, and then if you pop out at point blank range with that, it's basically the entire crew is finished. And that would be, those types of optics would just be too brutal. That you would really find a way to prevent that from happening. And so when people say Hamas is getting dominated, I'm not quite sure, because people could up the ante a little bit and start really making things ugly. Just take some weeks to get things there, maybe days, who knows? So I'd be careful. These Hamas videos where they're pretty much game planning what they could do with better weapons, that wouldn't sit well for me if I was like IDF intelligence or like the Likud party. I'd be like, oh my God. Because just imagine a resistance that's well armed and well hidden. It's pretty difficult to completely eradicate them. And you keep losing in the PR war because it's like, man, they're getting worked. So that doesn't bode well either.
Well, I think officially the deadliest day for the IDF was just like 2 days ago. You know, it wasn't in the first few days after they entered, like people may have expected. And they seem to be.
Yeah, they're completely not transparent either with their casualty figures.
Yeah, that could be completely not accurate, but they apparently that strike seemed to be their own version of, you know, a double tap or a triple tap. I've heard differing versions, but you know, they rigged up some sort of large explosive, detonated it, waited for all the rescuers to come, and then detonated another one. And I heard there may have even been a third. I'm not sure of that. But Zach, you posted a video yesterday from like inside. Was it an Al Jazeera report that was alleging that there was basically like some just outright executions of women and children going on?
Massacre.
Do you know any more about that?
In a little hospital occurred. So people are trying to debunk it by saying that it's not a reliable source. That Al Jazeera. I'm not quite sure. I think it's probably real, and you know, like we said, atrocities can be committed by both sides in these types of things. It's only human nature to do so. Sadly.
Did you hear the like for IDF troops? Apparently, 20% of the deaths was friendly fire. Did you hear about that?
I did see that. Yeah,
that's quite sloppy.
And then someone
that's from the helicopter, probably.
Someone tried to counter and say that U.S. deaths in the first Gulf War were even higher than that, which was news to me, and I wasn't able to verify. But it was a little unbelievable. I don't know if that's actually true, but
it's possible. In the first Gulf War, I mean, there wasn't many casualties on the American side from the opposition, right? But there was a lot of like operations carried out, right?
Yeah, maybe. My Gulf War knowledge is not as thorough as it should be.
It was the attack on the school. It was an attack on a school. apparently. Yeah, these people were shot in the school. It's unclear, like, whether they shot through the school or they came into the school. They were sheltering in there, apparently. No shelling or missile attacks. Oh, shit.
Yeah, so for the
So they
first
came
Gulf
in and did it.
War, so obviously the first Gulf War, I mean, there was a coalition of like, a bunch of countries or whatever. But overall, we had like basically 1 million soldiers in the coalition, but there were 292 killed, 147 killed by enemy action, 145 non-hostile deaths. So whatever,
I
like
wonder
that,
how
if
much of
that's
that is
I'm
just like
seeing from
winners
fires,
the
partying too
accidents,
hard in the
or whatever.
Kuwaiti desert.
I'm seeing from AP that for the U.S. there were 148 combat deaths and 35 of them were from friendly fire.
Yeah. So if
Wow.
that, yeah, that's about 20%. Well, somewhere around the neighborhood of 20%,
Yeah, I
right?
guess whoever I saw say that was not wrong.
Yeah, but it's
Surprising.
not
Get it
way
together,
more.
U.S. military.
It's not way more like they were claiming.
No, that's true. I'd be really curious what those non-combat Gulf War deaths all were. Like helicopter crashes or
Some sort of accidents, maybe, or I don't know. I wonder what it. Do you know what the percentage was in the like Iraq and Afghanistan campaigns?
no, that I have no idea.
Hilarious. The space just
I would imagine
closed. I had to reopen it.
Oh,
They're probably like, do not talk about combat casualties like that.
let's look it up.
I'm trying to find it too right now.
Fire death rate, Afghanistan war, USA. Yeah, so there's a Wikipedia page on list of friendly fire incidents, and it says it usually accounts for 2 to 20% of all casualties in battle. And let's see, let's check. War. Iraq War 2003-2011. Does it say a total? No, there's no total. It just talks about incidents. Damn it.
I was trying to just Google just now how many U.S. soldiers in Vietnam died of drug overdoses, and I can't find any numbers for that. I don't know if they were maybe trying to keep that more hush-hush at the time, but
You probably would have to like.
Yo, ask
do some-
Grok.
That's what I just did. I just asked Grok, and it says in the Afghan war, 13 to 17% of American combat deaths were from friendly fire.
Jeez.
Andy, would you mind asking Grok? I've never used Grok about the Vietnam drug overdoses.
Yeah, let me do that.
I love Grok.
I should start utilizing it more often.
Yeah, I saw you posted it, or I think it was you who posted it the other day, and it was clearly a different vibe than what you get from ChatGPT. So I'll have to try it out and play with it soon.
Yeah.
It's entertaining, but it's pretty worthless at its present state.
I don't know about worthless, but I see a lot of promise in the future because they're apparently really trying to ramp up. Like, they're trying to get access to as many GPUs as possible, and they can't seem to get enough.
That's why I say at present state, because until they have an API behind it, it's fun to interact with, but I can't build an application around it. So
Grok says that while we cannot provide a significant or a specific number of U.S. service members who died from drug overdoses during the Vietnam War, it's just, blah blah blah. But it says in the paragraph above, it says that there was widespread heroin and opium use from U.S. service members during Vietnam.
Yeah, I think they were still smoking weed over in Afghanistan. Just
I would
according to some buddies
imagine the
I had.
overdose. I mean,
Math too.
you know, maybe this is quite the assumption, but I would imagine there was probably more overdose deaths from Vietnam vets after the Vietnam War than during.
Oh, for sure, 100%. Yeah, but there had to have been some guys who just out there at the front shooting up, had an air bubble or something, and next thing you know, you're dead.
The air bubble thing is
Was that a myth I was lied about in high school?
well, I guess if you're doing intravenously, because I would always hear that about people, like they're like, oh, you like people would talk about aspirating because it's like you got to check if there's blood and the air bubbles and and for like people would say that about intramuscular injections. I'm like, I don't know, that sounds like not like they don't even really, I don't think they even recommend doctors do that anymore because it's kind of bullshit. Like they used to do that back in the day. They're like, oh, you have to aspirate when they would give you like a vaccine injection, but it's basically bullshit.
I think the first place I actually
from
heard about the
2000
air bubble intravenous drug use myth or issue was I think Obama mentioned it in his like autobiography, talking about his own drug use as a teenager.
It takes about 50 cc's of air being injected into the bloodstream to
That's a lot.
cause it.
That's a
Cause it.
fucking lot.
Yeah. Well, that won't even kill you. That'll just cause like EKG changes. But from according to Grok, from 2017 to 2021, 15,293 service members overdosed on drugs and alcohol. Only 332 died though.
Those were all the cool people. Imagine if they had lived.
Wait, what was the time period? What was the time period?
2017 to 2021.
And this is active duty.
It's provided from these statistics are provided from the Defense Department, so I'm assuming active duty.
Okay. You should ask Grok, does this mean active duty or does this include vets? It's probably active duty. I would assume active duty.
Be curious to know how many, if any, of those were like on deployment.
I don't think they would report those numbers, do you?
Probably not.
Yeah, this is the department, after all, that loses like accounting for $2+ trillion or whatever. So, yeah.
I would imagine that if there was a significant number of overdoses on deployment, that combat medics would carry like naloxone, but I don't know that they actually do. I don't know if anyone would know that.
More often out at the FOBs, you just have hooch. Like it gets brought in by contractors or trading with others. And like Sabit Kadam, like we didn't bomb that because that was actual drug dealer's house, and it was better to maintain that compound than to let the locals take it over. But yeah, there's plenty of access to it.
That's really interesting.
It is really
Yeah, I know there's a big problem with alcoholism after people have been discharged. Like on the ambulance, I've transported a lot of former service members with alcohol poisoning, which is always sad.
Yeah, that's always sad. Guys, I gotta close a little bit here because I gotta go to Caroline Space maybe later and got a couple things I gotta do. So nice chatting, of course, as always. Right, Tad.
See you later, Zach.
All right, guys, take care.